Chapter 3:10. There was a black hole on the ground, and one could vaguely see hair. Immediately, a stream of blood spurted out from the hole like a whale spitting out water. The purple-clothed youth was deader than dead. "How dare you?" The remaining 7 people looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. They couldn't believe that Chu Yang killed the purple-clothed youth in an instant. The purple-clothed youth was at the 4th level of the Chi Soul realm, while Chu Yang was at most at the 3rd level. Logically speaking, the one who was smashed into the ground like a steel nail should be Chu Yang, not the purple-clothed youth. Especially when Chu Yang killed the purple-clothed youth as if he was killing a chicken. It wasn't impossible to kill someone who was at a higher level, but to them, to kill someone who was at a higher level than them so effortlessly, this was the most unbelievable part. Originally, they thought that this would be an easy mission. After all, no matter how powerful Chu Yang was, it was useless. There were 8 of them, and all of them were at a higher level than Chu Yang. Not to mention ganging up on him, just one of them could crush Chu Yang to death. Now, it seemed that things weren't that simple. "I made a mistake. I didn't even loot the place before burying him." Chu Yang looked at the 7 of them and laughed. "I just stepped on a bug, now it's your turn. Do you want me to gang up on the 7 of you, or do you want to come up one by one?" Chu Yang felt that he had been too relaxed recently, almost becoming a joke. It was because he hadn't met any decent opponents. Now, the pressure had come. That senior brother An was the Zhongtian hanging sword above his head. As long as he didn't get rid of it, he would always be in danger. And these 7 people in front of him were the beginning of getting rid of the Zhongtian hanging sword. With the help of these 7 people, he could use them to test his true battle strength after the 3rd transformation of his Chi Soul. "You're courting death. Arrogant." The remaining 7 people were completely infuriated by Chu Yang. They were powerful existences even in the inner sect of the 5 Elements sect. When had they ever been humiliated like this? What's more, they had always treated Chu Yang as meat on the chopping board. But now, the fish on the chopping board was clamoring at them. That mocking expression made them feel like their dignity was being challenged and humiliated. "Kill him. We must chop him into pieces." The 7 of them shouted and pounced towards Chu Yang. The 7 of them all had at least one powerful Chi Soul Realm True Yuan skill on their backs. They had already cultivated them to a very high level. At this time, all kinds of true essence skills blasted towards Chu Yang. Great Thousand Leaf Palms. Chu Yang didn't try to evade, and instead took the attack head-on. He executed the first move of the Great Thousand Leaf Hands, and suddenly, he seemed to transform into a 1,000-armed Buddha. Numerous arms appeared, forming a divine halo that made him seem even more noble and mysterious. Peng, peng, peng. The 100 arms moved at the same time, blasting in all directions. The arms exploded, turning into countless leaves that fluttered in the air like butterflies. It was a beautiful and spectacular sight. Especially Chu Yang, who was floating in mid-air, countless leaves swirling around him, making him look like a floating star. Boom, boom, boom. The arms of the Great Thousand Leaf Hands slammed down on the cauldrons, huge rocks, and demonic beasts formed by True Yuan. Terrifying sounds erupted, and the air within a radius of 10 feet shook. Countless clouds of dust flew up, forming a sandstorm. Shua. After blocking the first round of attacks from the 7 people, Chu Yang moved his body, and 10 of himself appeared. Using the Great Thousand Leaf Steps, he changed from defense to offense, and directly rushed towards the 7 people like a tiger in a flock of sheep. Using the Great Thousand Leaf Hands, he attacked the 7 people at the same time. Chapter 3:11. A martial artist at the 4th level of the Chi Soul realm could not withstand such an explosive attack. His true origin skill was shattered by Chu Yang's palm strike, and he was killed by Chu Yang's palm strike. His head exploded like a watermelon. Soon after, another 4th layer Chi Soul realm martial artist was killed. Among the 7 remaining 4th layer Chi Soul realm martial artists, 2 of them were killed in an instant. The remaining 5 people's attacks were even crazier. Even though Chu Yang used the Great Kiliakasm Leaf Steps and created many phantoms, it was still difficult for 2 fists to fight against 4 hands. It was impossible for him to block all the attacks. He was hit several times. The huge force bombarded his body, shaking his skin, flesh, tendons, bones, and internal organs. This made him faintly excited, and his fighting spirit soared. He used his own body as an iron embryo, and the enemy's attack as a hammer to temper his whole body. Chu Yang suddenly felt a little nostalgic about this feeling. He felt comfortable all over his body in an instant. But this was far from enough to make him feel satisfied. It seems like my body hasn't completely digested the energy from the phantasm demon pill. Chu Yang instantly came to this conclusion. Can you guys make the storm even more violent? He took the initiative to provoke and ridiculed. Have you guys not eaten yet, or are you all just trash? A 5th or 6th layer Chi Soul Realm martial artist like you guys are so weak. I can't even bear to look at you guys. It's too early for you to be so arrogant. The young man in luxurious robes had a gloomy expression. Even with his arrogance, he had to admit that Chu Yang was ridiculously strong. The 7 of them attacked at the same time, but 2 of them were killed in an instant. Chu Yang's strength shocked him. Not only that, but Chu Yang didn't seem to be satisfied yet. It seemed like the remaining 5 people couldn't give him enough pressure. This bastard is definitely a monster. No wonder he dared to take advantage of a girl like Chen Aoshue. The young man in luxurious robes was indeed shocked, but he was just bickering with Chu Yang to attract Chu Yang's attention. Swish! With a subtle sound of breaking through the air, a dagger had already arrived in front of Chu Yang. It was the triangular-eyed youth. At this moment, his speed was extremely fast, and his movement technique was extremely strange. He was like a venomous snake that suddenly leaped out from the darkness, causing people to feel terrified just looking at him. At the same time, the young man in the luxurious robe also attacked with all his strength. He punched out, and golden Jin Yuan seemed to illuminate the entire world. The air was distorted by his fist, and a large metal cauldron burst out and rushed forward with a rumbling sound. At this time, the other 3 also burst out with astonishing attacks. A 7-colored ribbon, which seemed to have turned into a 7-colored heavenly pillar, pierced over. The explosive bear madly ran, and the earth was like a beating drum, charging over. The Black Panther was extremely agile, pouncing and biting over. Haha, good, good. That's more like it. An enormous pressure rumbled over, like a landslide. Chu Yang's blood flowed quickly, and the cells in his body became excited. He was extremely happy, and laughed loudly. This made the 5 people's hearts tremble. 1 against 5, and with a cultivation base that was far lower than theirs, it was fine if they weren't afraid, but instead, they were very happy. Plaything, who are you trying to sneak attack in front of? As they spoke, the air around Chu Yang exploded, and suddenly, 10 figures appeared. They were real and fake, but his figure disappeared. The 5 people's pupils shrank. Chu Yang was actually able to forcefully escape from their lock-on. Snakes eat rats as food. Once they lock onto the rat and launch a fatal attack, how could the rat escape? Unless this mouse was faster, more powerful than a snake. If this was the case, it would mean that Chu Yang was stronger than any of the 5 of them. He was only at the 3rd layer of the Chi Soul realm, but he was actually stronger than the 6th layer of the Chi Soul realm. While they were still in shock, they heard the triangular-eyed youth cry out in fear, "No!" Chapter 312. Boom. It was too late for the 4 of them to stop. The triangular-eyed youth was directly blown away, and this was when the 4 of them tried their best to restrain their strength. Otherwise, the triangular-eyed youth would have died. Dealing with the 5 of them was like taking a stroll in the park with ease, and even toying with them in the palm of his hand. What kind of strength was this? Plaything, you like sneak attacks, right? You should also try my methods. Whoosh. The wind suddenly made a strange sound, and Chu Yang's voice seemed to come from the wind. When the 5 of them saw Chu Yang again, they saw that Chu Yang had created another 10 phantoms, and they ganged up on the triangular-eyed youth. Heart-piercing style. Chu Yang used his finger as a sword, and directly aimed at the triangular-eyed youth's heart. The triangular-eyed youth hurriedly blocked, but he did not encounter anything. He hit the void, and it was only a phantom. Heart-piercing style. From the front of him, another Chu Yang rushed towards him, aiming at his vital temple. He hurriedly blocked again, But it was still empty, and there was nothing. Heart-piercing style. The voice of death sounded again, and the triangular-eyed youth was scared out of his wits again. He hurriedly blocked, but the result was the same as before. Heart-piercing style. This time it was real. Kai, the sound of the sword piercing into the flesh was heard. The triangular-eyed youth's eyes bulged, and he raised his hands as if he wanted to pull out the sword and cover the wound. Before he died, his eyes were still full of shock and disbelief. When did he appear in front of me? Peng. The triangular-eyed youth fell to the ground and died with his eyes wide open. After obtaining the illusion demon talent, Chu Yang's phantoms had a qualitative leap, and it was hard to distinguish between the real and the fake. Together with the wind-chasing life-stealing sword, the power was even more amazing. Now that he had displayed the life-stealing sword, it was really unpredictable, and it was impossible to guard against. Peng. The sword condensed from Zhen Yuan turned into a cluster of flames and landed in Chu Yang's hand, burning fiercely. The remaining 4 experts went crazy. In just a short period of time, the 8 of them had already been killed by Chu Yang. This was especially true for the triangular-eyed youth, who was a top-notch expert amongst them. He was at the 5th layer of the Chi Soul realm, and was also proficient in formations. His divine senses were extremely shocking, but now, after being played around with time and time again, he was killed. Fight it out with him. That charming woman shouted, and the 7 colored rays of light in her hand brightened up. Then, a series of 7 colored ribbons blasted out towards Chu Yang unceasingly, just like a series of 7 colored lasers. Boom! 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 A series of terrifying explosions rang out. Chu Yang directly blocked the 7 colored divine light with his palm. Even though his body was as tough as metal, his palm was still blasted open and blood splattered everywhere. Boom! The other 3 people's attacks also arrived one after another. The exploding bear, the black panther, and the large cauldron. Chu Yang punched out with both hands at the same time, blasting the exploding bear and the black panther apart. However, he didn't seem to be able to block the golden cauldron of the luxurious-robed youth. He was sent flying by the golden cauldron, and spat out a mouthful of blood. Boom! Smoke and dust rose into the sky, and Chu Yang's leisurely voice came from within. It seems that I'm still struggling to block all of your attacks without dodging or avoiding them. Dong! A huge tremor suddenly came from Chu Yang, causing the 4 people's hearts to skip a beat. Soon after, the smoke and dust were all pushed out. They saw the Zhen Yuan on Chu Yang's body surging out like waves, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. From afar, he looked like the reincarnation of an ancient killing god. Come, let's continue. It feels like it's been a long time since anyone was able to injure me. Today, I'll give it a try. Without dodging, facing 2 experts at the 6th layer of the Chi Soul realm, I want to see how badly I'll be injured before I can kill you. This madman, he actually didn't dodge their attacks. Chapter 313. The Golden Cauldron, the Rainbow Chain, the Explosive Bear, and the Black Panther quickly approached Oyu Yangming. Similar attacks were coming from behind. However, none of the 4 dared to get close to Chu Yang. They only attacked from afar. Ha! Chu Yang laughed loudly. You don't dare to get close. Then I'll just stand here and let you hit me. Boom! He blasted the Black Panther and the Rainbow Chain. The 2 were the most agile and sharp. They had little effect on tempering his body and would only injure him. The Cauldron and the Explosive Bear were much better. They were more like hammers and not awls. Chu Yang was not crazy. The energy contained in the phantom pill was extremely high. The spherical heaven universal millstone in his body had to crush it and turn it into low-grade energy. Only then could Chu Yang's body absorb it. When they exchanged blows earlier, he sensed that the energy of the phantom pill was not completely absorbed. It was stored in his body. It was not his first time using the enemy to temper his body. This method was the most intense but also the fastest. He might be able to reach the power of 4 dragons and break through to the 3rd transformation, the physical body transformation, 4 images. Bang! Chu Yang was sent flying again. The muscles on his chest burst open, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Ha! He's not far from death. The young man in the luxurious robe was overjoyed and laughed loudly. Idiot, he's just standing there and letting us hit him. Does he really think he's invincible? He's simply courting death. After a series of attacks, the four people could not help but heave a sigh of relief when they saw that Chu Yang's injuries were getting worse. This lowly bastard Chu Yang is too difficult to deal with. 8 of us besieged him, but he killed 4 of us instead. Let alone a one-on-one battle, I'm afraid we would all be dead now if he hadn't been so stupid. Such a monster made them tremble in fear. Fortunately, because of his stupidity, they had severely injured him and could finally kill him. Their joy did not last long. Suddenly, they realized that Chu Yang had changed. A majestic aura soared into the sky and rose steadily. Soon, it reached a peak. However, his aura did not stop and continued to soar. The power of 3 dragons and 7 elephant. The power of 3 dragons and 8 elephant. The power of 3 dragons and 9 elephant. Stop him, stop him. He's a body cultivator, we can't let him break through. The charming woman shrieked. Her voice was so sharp that it almost pierced through one's eardrums. The other 3 naturally knew what had happened. Chu Yang was about to break through. This bastard was already very difficult to deal with. If he broke through, would they still be able to survive? However, it was already too late. Chu Yang's aura finally broke through the barrier, reaching the power of 4 dragons of might. Strangely, however, right after breaking through the barrier, Chu Yang's aura quickly fell back down to the power of 3 dragons and 9 elephants. What happened? Chu Yang, who was about to laugh out loud, froze in place. He really couldn't understand such a strange phenomenon. But when he sensed it, he found that the power of this dragon seemed to have rushed out through a gap. The innate wood physique is this gap. Chu Yang only lacked the innate wood physique among the 5 elements physiques. At this time, he wanted to break through to the power of 4 dragons of might. However, because he lacked the innate wood physique, his body's transformation was not completed. If his body's transformation was completed, it would give birth to the 4 symbols True Yuan. The 4 symbols were the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise. The azure dragon was wood, the vermilion bird was fire, the white tiger was metal, and the black tortoise was water. Without the innate wood physique, the body could not give birth to the wood True Yuan. In other words, if his 4 symbols were not complete, his body would not be able to complete the transformation. Chu Yang did have the wood True Yuan in his body, which he obtained from swallowing the monster core of the tree demon. However, he did not cultivate the innate wood physique. He had the wood True Yuan, which meant that he was evolving the innate wood physique. This should be the reason. The third transformation of the Chi Soul has its advantages and disadvantages. The 4 symbols True Yuan must correspond to the 4 symbols. Chu Yang was stuck at this point. This was a huge bottleneck. If he couldn't cultivate the innate wood physique, he would definitely not be able to break through to the power of 4 dragons. If he cultivated the innate wood physique, he would probably break through to the 5 elements True Yuan instantly. However, after that, he would need to cultivate the 6 directions True Yuan, 7 stars True Yuan, 8 trigrams True Yuan, and 9 palaces True Yuan. This meant that besides the innate wood physique, he would need to cultivate at least 4 types of innate wood physique to complete the third transformation. Chapter 3:14. Chu Yang didn't have the time to think, the 4 of them had already charged at him like crazy. Boom! The golden fist energy of the young man in luxurious robes formed a tornado, and within the tornado was a golden cauldron. Me. Chu Yang coldly snorted. Suddenly, it was as if a world of dragons had opened within his body. Tens of thousands of dragons roared together, and in an instant, hundreds of Jiao dragons rushed out from his body, filling up the entire sky and covering the sun. Hundreds of Jiao dragons roared in mid-air, their roars shattering the mountains and rivers. What is this? The 4 of them were so frightened by this scene that they stopped their attacks. Even the young man in luxurious robes, who was already close to Lin Fan, stopped himself and ran away like crazy. 100 Jiao dragons, 100 dragons appeared at the same time, and 100 dragons soared through the sky. What kind of scene was this? The 4 of them were almost scared to death as they scattered in all directions. Mph, idiots. There were no more than 100 Jiao dragons. Only 2 of them were real, and the rest were illusions. However, it was enough to scare the 4 of them out of their wits. Fragrant elephant crossing the river, cutting off the flow. This time, Chu Yang didn't use a sword or a saber, but a flying saber. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 2 flying sabers formed by Jin Yuan shot out, and hundreds of flying sabers shot towards the 2 6th LV Chi Soul Realm martial artists. Roar. The 100 Jiao dragons moved together, attacking the 5th LV Chi Soul Realm martial artist, while Chu Yang himself shot towards the 4th LV Chi Soul Realm martial artist. No, the mass of flying sabers made the young man in luxurious robes and the charming woman tremble in fear. They felt that this mass of flying sabers was even more terrifying than the 100 Jiao dragons. They frantically attacked and blocked, but it was as if they were hitting the air. Suddenly, they felt a sharp pain in their throats. They didn't know when a flying saber had pierced through their throats. Bang! Bang! The 2 of them died instantly and fell to the ground. Roar! The 5th LV Chi Soul Realm martial artist's 2 Jiao dragons turned into a pair of dragon scissors, cutting him in half. As for the 4th LV Chi Soul Realm martial artist, he wasn't even a match for Chu Yang, and was killed by Chu Yang with a single strike. 4 people were killed in an instant. Who? Chu Yang exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and frowned slightly. The consumption is still a bit high. In his consciousness, Little Six and Little Black were at a loss for words. You're at the 3rd level of the spirit realm, and you're complaining that it's too exhausting to kill 2 6th level spirit realm martial artists. However, the 2 of them really didn't have a temper. Recently, the things that their boss had done were very beastly, especially the 3rd transformation of the Chi Soul. This was something that many people didn't dare to achieve. They didn't even dare to think about it. It was unknown how many monsters and geniuses had tried their best and even risked their lives to cultivate, but they still couldn't achieve it. However, what did their boss do? At the very least, he could achieve the 3rd transformation of the Chi Soul after a short sleep. For such a matter, the 2 apes felt that there was really no place to reason. What can you say about this array formation? Sure. After Chu Yang looted the 7 people he had killed, he quickly left. A day later, in a cave, a certain person's ghostly cry could be heard. A wood-type treasure. A wood-type treasure. A wood-type treasure. In the western region, Chu Yang had obtained as many as 500 storage rings. He was now counting them one by one, looking forward to it. However, after sweeping through all 500 storage rings, he didn't obtain anything. As for the medicinal pills, origin crystals, and spirit crystals, they were pitifully few. Chu Yang didn't care about the cultivation techniques either. These poor bastards must have swallowed all the treasures before the entrance exam in order to increase their strength. Aya, my treasures. Chu Yang felt a little heartache. He felt that he should have robbed them before the entrance exam. Among the 8 people from the 5-element sect, he didn't dig up the one who was already buried. After sweeping through the 7 storage rings, he was greatly disappointed. 5-element sect disciples my ass. They are the same as those poor bastards in the western region. They don't have anything. As for their quintessential origin skills, Chu Yang didn't care about them at all. This is simply the greatest humiliation in my history of robbing. Chapter 315. It's better than nothing. Chu Yang could only comfort himself like this. He had read through these array formation manuals and had a comprehensive understanding of array formation masters. Array formation masters were divided into 10 levels: 1st level array formation master, 2nd level array formation master, 3rd level array formation master. After the 10th level array formation master was the Saint array formation master. A 1st level array formation master corresponded to the origin martial realm, a 2nd level array formation master corresponded to the Chi Soul realm, a 3rd level array formation master corresponded to the ascending soul realm, and so on. Generally speaking, a 1st level array formation master needed at least 10 array seals to form a 1st level array formation, a 2nd level array formation needed at least 20 array seals, and a 3rd level array formation needed at least 30 array seals. It was important to note that a corresponding level array formation needed a corresponding level array seal. A first-level array formation corresponded to a first-level array seal, a second-level array formation corresponded to a second-level array seal, and so on. Among them, a first-level array seal was on a completely different level from a second and third-level array seal. 100 first-level array seals were equivalent to a second-level array seal, and 100 second-level array seals were equivalent to a third-level array seal. In other words, a second-level array formation needed at least 20 second-level array seals, which was equivalent to 200 first-level array seals. As for an array formation master's breakthrough, there were two important factors. The first was the understanding of heaven and earth. Only with enough understanding of heaven and earth could one control more heaven and earth energy. Therefore, every time an array formation master broke through, they had to break through a barrier of heaven and earth. The second was the spiritual power of an array formation master. Array formation master, look at this. It's all extremely difficult, but I don't feel it. Chu Yang muttered for a while, I want to see how difficult it is. Chu Yang judged that he should be at least a third-level array formation master based on his understanding of array formations in the Western region. At the same time, he began to try to arrange an array formation, the blade light sword shadow array he had obtained from the triangular-eyed youth. Sword seal. Sword chi surged, and a third-level array seal was formed in an instant. It flew out from Chu Yang's hand and into the air. Immediately, a mysterious fluctuation rippled out, and visible ripples spread out into the distance. Blade seal. Following the same pattern, Chu Yang instantly condensed the saber seal. Then, the formation seals continued to form. Unknowingly, 30 formation seals had been condensed and arranged. When the last formation fell into the air, 30 formation seals shone brightly. Soon after, they began to link with each other. Lines of formation patterns were outlined, and soon, a net of light was formed. Hoo! A gale suddenly rose and the power of heaven and earth was sucked in by the formation. Suddenly, the formation became even more dazzling. A straight beam of light soared into the sky. In an instant, thousands of swords and knives appeared. The sound of swords and knives rang out. It was as if the thousands of swords and knives were madly strangling the enemy. The level 3 formation had been completed. Chu Yang felt nothing at all. He seemed to be able to do it with just a lift of his hand, as if it was an extremely easy task. Anyone who saw it would be able to do it. She couldn't help but mutter, is a level 3 array very difficult? Are you joking with me? Xiao Liu, Xiao Hei, give your opinions. Was a level 3 array formation very difficult? Formation blind. Xiao Liu and Xiao Hei felt that if these words were to spread, there would definitely be people who would go crazy and want to beat their master to death. Boss is omnipotent. In this world, for boss, there is nothing that can be said to be difficult. Xiao Hei agreed, sixth brother is right. The word difficult only applies to other people. For boss, this word doesn't exist. These two monkey spirits didn't speak the truth, but Chu Yang seemed to believe them. He said without modesty, I think so too. I even feel that this formation can be modified. Sword heart heavenly fire, saber crystal earth water. There are swords and sabers, how can there not be water and fire? While speaking, a few more formation seals were condensed and flew into the formation. Suddenly, with a bang, a flame soared into the sky from the formation, burning everything. Then, a cold air spread out. The white fog in the formation rolled and frost appeared in an instant. There was even a torrent of water rushing in. Not bad, not bad. The power has increased by another level. Hee hee. Chu Yang suddenly laughed sinisterly, if I encounter that little girl again, I will use my saber and sword to strip her naked before roasting her with fire and water. It would be like roasting chicken and cooking duck. Just as Chu Yang was laughing sinisterly and thinking about how the little girl would turn into a loach and be roasted, Xiao Liu said, Boss, there is a commotion over there. Xiao Liu was referring to the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. When he was comprehending the array, he asked Xiao Liu and Xiao Hei to take turns to condense a flying eagle to monitor the situation at the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution. Omnipotent boss, you have to hurry up. Earlier on, I was intimidated by boss's imposing manner and was absent-minded. The situation over there isn't good. Damn monkey, Do you know how to do things? Chapter 316. Huanmo Secret Territory, Eastern District, in a mountain stream. The people from the Eastern District were in a confrontation with the people from the Northern and Southern Districts. The people from the Northern and Southern Districts had crossed the border and joined forces to bully the Eastern District. The Huanmo Secret Territory was divided into 4 districts. Since the beginning of time, it was rare for the 4 districts to cross the border. Once someone crossed the border and was killed, the 5 Elements sect would not pursue the matter. The scene was very chaotic. The 3 martial institutions at the East District of the Assassin District were in a chaotic battle. Be it the moon-gazing martial institutions Gongshong, the sunset martial institutions Li Chengfeng, or the 9 bends martial institutions Chu Renxian, all of them had encountered formidable opponents. On the other side, the coiling dragon martial institution and the female martial institution had gathered together. The 2 leaders were Chu Na and the female martial institutions Yi Chimei. The 2 women were naturally easier to get close to, and since they were the leaders, it was not strange for them to be together. At this moment, there was a group of people facing them from afar. The leader of the White Dragon Martial Institution, one of the 3 great martial institutions in the southern region, was Shangguan Xian. The North Return Martial Academy was one of the 3 martial academies in the Northern District. The 2 leading youths were Tu Xiangming and Zhon Hobua of the North Return Martial Academy. One of them was dressed in a white robe and had a dignified appearance. The other one was dressed in a purple robe and had an ugly face. He had slanted eyes and a crooked mouth. His eyes, in particular, seemed to be slanted since birth. The strength of these 3 people was no weaker than Yi Chimei, Gongshong, and Chu Renxian. They were at least at the 4th level of the Qi Soul realm. There was a chaotic battle all around. Perhaps it was because most of the people in the Women's Martial Arts Academy were women, but there was no fierce battle here yet. Junior Sister Yi, you better hand over the Earth Lotus fruit. I'll allow you to be my concubine. Shangguan Xian smiled lecherously. Then, he pointed at Chu Na and said, Junior Sister Chu, you're as beautiful as Junior Sister Yi. You should be grateful that I'm giving you such a chance. After a pause, he laughed again. Otherwise, when I use force later, the 2 junior sisters might be in a bit of pain. At that time, don't blame me for not knowing how to have tender feelings for the fairer sex. Ha ha, the White Dragon Martial Institution's people instantly burst into laughter. Junior Sister Chu, we can only fight to the death. Yi Chimei's expression was ice-cold. She had already decided to fight to the death. Chu Na also nodded, but retorted sarcastically, today, there will be someone who will seek justice for the things that your northern and southern martial institutions have done. Shangguan Xian, don't talk nonsense with these 2 little girls. Just snatch them and beat them into submission. We can't play with them however we want. The ugly Zhon Hobua from the North Return Martial Academy was also lecherous, but his expression was cold. Brother Zhon, you've seen it clearly. Let's do it. Shangguan Xian directly gave the order. Immediately, the North Return Martial Institution and the White Dragon Martial Institution's forces pressed towards the Woman Martial Institution and the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution's disciples. The factions weren't even equal. The Women's Martial Institution might be fine as they were all females, but they weren't at a disadvantage. However, the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution's disciples were much weaker. Furthermore, the other party had the advantage in numbers. As soon as they clashed, miserable shrieks echoed. In just an instant, many of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution's disciples were sent flying. Li Hao, Zhong Tian, Ji Jingcheng, and Wang Xiaoman could only do their best to resist. Defeat was only a matter of time. Fortunately, the North and South districts did not dare to kill. If they were to cross the boundary and kill, too many of them would die. They would definitely not be able to escape punishment. Yi Chimei and Chu Na both went up to face Shangguan Xian, Tu Xiangming, and that ugly Zhon Hobua. If Chu Yang was here, he would definitely find it strange. He hadn't seen Chu Na for a short period of time, but she had already reached the 4th level Qi Soul realm. She wasn't any weaker than Shangguan Xian and the others. This was naturally because of the earth lotus fruit. Although Chu Na and Yi Chimei worked together, the other party's three opponents were not inferior to Chu Na and Yi Chimei. Soon, Chu Na and Tu Xiangming fell into a disadvantageous position. Their faces revealed traces of anxiety as they were completely at a disadvantage. As for Shangguan Xian and the others, although they were at ease, they were striving to defeat the two opponents in the shortest time possible. Then, they would return to deal with Gong Shong and Chu Renxian. The western region had already been destroyed by Chu Yang. Without the western region, the four regions would be out of balance. The north and south regions intended to destroy the eastern region and plunder all the points and treasures of the eastern region. In this way, the entrance examination of the Five Elements sect would belong to the north and south regions. Chapter 317. Many of the disciples were fighting in a group, but no one dared to get close to the five of them. The five of them were far stronger than them. If they were to get close, they would be severely injured even if they were swept by the aftermath. Damn it. The North and South martial institutions are truly abominable. Wang Xiaoman gritted her teeth and spoke with anger. In front of her was a second-level Qi Soul Realm expert, and she couldn't hold on any longer. I guarantee that you will regret it. Her reason was naturally Chu Yang. Chu Yang had already wiped out the western region. So what if the northern and southern regions could do? Yes, fight it out with them. These bastards are too much. Li Hao roared with anger. He had never been so sullen before. If Chu Yang was here, the current situation wouldn't be like this. Yes, kill these bastards. If we die, Junior Brother Chu will definitely take revenge for us. They will also be dead. Another coiling dragon martial institution's disciple roared with anger. The delicate female disciples of the female martial institution were mostly stronger than the coiling dragon martial institution's disciples. At this moment, they were all fighting with their lives on the line. As women, once they were defeated, the consequences would be unimaginable. The eastern region's only advantage was that the northern and southern regions didn't dare to kill, but they didn't. Therefore, they were barely able to hold on. However, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. The difference in strength was too great. It was already a miracle that they were barely able to hold on. Since you want to die, I will grant your wish. The ugly Jean Hobua instantly became ruthless. While he was exchanging moves with Yi Chimei and Chu Na, he ordered the disciples of the North and South martial institutions, kill a few of them first. Let them know what fear is. You dare. Aren't you afraid of being investigated? Chu Na and Yi Chimei were instantly anxious. They looked at the moon-gazing martial institution, the Nine Bends martial institution, and the Sunset martial institution. However, the three martial institutions were already in an earth-shattering fight. Due to the number of people, the three martial institutions were already at a disadvantage. Chu Renxian, Li Chengfeng, and Gong Shong couldn't even take care of themselves. If they didn't have the advantage of killing, they would have already been defeated. They wouldn't be able to take care of Chu Na's side. HMPH, investigate? Investigate for some trash? You're just being stubborn and seeking your own deaths. Who can you blame? Kill them all. How dare you? Chu Na glanced at the members of the Coiling Dragon martial institution from the corner of her eyes. When she saw that they were about to be killed, she suddenly disregarded her own safety and rushed over to kill the enemy. A Coiling Dragon martial institution's disciple was saved. At the same time, she gritted her teeth and said coldly, Kill me. Let me see if you dare to kill me. Chu Na could be considered a genius disciple. Since the leader of the martial courtyard was killed, she would definitely be investigated because she was not an ordinary disciple. Jean Hobua laughed coldly. I don't dare to kill you, but I will definitely make you beg for death. I will make you want to die. He licked his lips with a sinister smile and stared at Chu Na lustfully. Chu Na immediately shivered. How could she not understand the meaning behind Jean Hobua's words? Her face couldn't help but turn pale. Chimph, are you scared now? It's too late. I promise I'll do as I say. At this moment, Jean Haubois burst out with all his strength. His true essence overflowed, causing the air to tremble. When he attacked with his full strength, it was extremely terrifying. When Chu Na was distracted, Jean Haubois had already caught hold of her floor. She was completely at a disadvantage and could only desperately resist. Her fighting style was completely suicidal. However, Jean Haubois still managed to catch hold of her floor. Under Jean Haubois' continuous attacks, Chu Na couldn't resist any longer. She was kicked in the abdomen. She groaned and was sent flying. Chapter 318. A horrifying saber chi descended from the sky and cleaved down. Jean Haubois hastily dodged in a panic and was almost cleaved in half. He still had lingering fear in his heart, but he was even more furious. Swish. A white figure appeared with a saber in hand. It was an unsharpened saber. Because of the appearance of this person, the chaotic scene couldn't help but turn silent. Even the fighting stopped. Little brother. Seeing the white figure, Chu Na was immediately overjoyed and ecstatic. Junior brother Chu. Everyone from the Coiling Dragon martial institution was overjoyed. Some of them had already roared, "Junior brother Chu is here. These bastards are dead meat." Gong Shong, Chu Renxian, and the others couldn't help but be overjoyed when they saw the commotion. Chu Yang was a horrifying combat strength. The newcomer was naturally Chu Yang. Tat tat tat, Chu Yang approached with a saber in hand. The corner of his mouth curled up as he looked at Jean Haubois with a smile and said, "Who are you going to make beg for death? Who are you going to make want to die as well?" At this moment, everyone's eyes were looking at Chu Yang. They didn't expect such a person to suddenly appear with a face full of ridicule. That saber earlier was truly horrifying. It actually had such power when it was slashed from 300 feet away. Many people realized how extraordinary Chu Yang was from that saber earlier. Many people from the North and South martial institutions narrowed their eyes. On the contrary, Gong Shong, Chu Renxian, Cheng Feng, and the others were overjoyed. Just now, they naturally felt how horrifying that saber was. At the same time, they were extremely shocked. These days, there was no news of Chu Yang. However, once Chu Yang appeared, his strength seemed to have become even more horrifying. At this moment, everyone from the Eastern Region martial institution was in a very complicated mood. Of course, they knew about Chu Yang. In fact, after Chu Yang had caused such a huge commotion in the Eastern Region, many people from the martial institutions were studying Chu Yang. Previously, the strength that Chu Yang displayed was enough to kill a 4th-tier Chi Soul Realm martial artist with a wave of his hand. He even seemed to be able to contend with a 6th-tier Chi Soul Realm martial artist, the Luo Yun Martial Academy elder. However, he was even more terrifying now. Chu Yang, Shangguan Xian, Jean Haubois, and Tu Xiangming's pupils instantly shrank. When they were inquiring about the strength of the Eastern District, this name was highlighted. It seemed that this person was indeed extraordinary. However, Jean Haubois stared at Chu Yang and carefully observed him. He felt that Chu Yang's cultivation was at most at the 3rd layer of the Chi Soul realm. He couldn't help but laugh coldly. "You're Chu Yang, right? How dare you ambush me?" Chu Yang ignored his question. "I'll make you beg for death. How about it? I'll ask you now, are you satisfied with this treatment?" The familiar mocking tone caused everyone from the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution to burst out in laughter. Yi Chimei was still a little worried. She whispered to Chu Na, "Can he handle it?" "Elder sister, don't worry. I'm just worried that he'll go overboard later." Chu Na's reply caused Yi Chimei to be stunned. Jean Haubois was so angry that he was almost speechless. Chu Yang looked down on him too much and didn't put him in his eyes at all. Shortly after, he roared, "You're courting death. You can't blame anyone else." Swish. Chapter 319. Chu Yang didn't even try to dodge. Instead, he grabbed Jean Haubois' ankle. His movements seemed casual and slow, but Jean Haubois' lightning-fast leg was still caught easily. It was easy for Chu Yang, but for others, it could only be a kind of horror. When Chu Yang's hand was about to grab Jean Haubois' ankle, the The two terrifying forces collided with each other. The air exploded, and a sonic boom erupted. One could imagine how astonishing Jean Haubois' sweep was. Why did you send the pig trotters over? Let me think about it. Jean Haubois didn't expect Chu Yang to be so strong. He blocked his full-strength attack so easily and even grabbed his ankle. Just as he was in a state of shock, Chu Yang's voice rang in his ears. Do you mean that you want to become a windmill? That should be the case. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Jean Haubois only felt a strong force that he couldn't resist. His whole body was swung uncontrollably and then spun at a high speed. The next moment, he really became a windmill, and the sky and earth were spinning. Maybe you want to be a hammer. Everyone was dead silent. No one made a sound. So even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Therefore, Chu Yang's words were even clearer in their ears. Anyway, I don't care. I saw my most handsome move on the celestial eye. It was too cool. I want to learn it too. In an instant, everyone felt the ground under their feet shake. They saw Chu Yang swinging Jean Haubois around and smashing the ground. Dust exploded and soared into the sky, accompanied by Jean Haubois' screams. It's just as my most handsome said. The ground is not solid. Everyone, where is the mountain? Everyone was stunned again. With a swoosh, Chu Yang dragged Jean Haubois to the mountain walls on both sides of the mountain stream and smashed Jean Haubois on the walls like a hammer. Bang bang bang. The walls of the mountain shook and rumbled. Every time the rumbling sound entered the ears of the crowd, their hearts would tremble to the point where they felt like they were about to jump out of their chests. Bang! Chu Yang suddenly exerted his strength and ruthlessly smashed Jean Haubois into the mountain wall, creating a large human figure on the mountain wall. As for whether Jean Haubois was still alive, no one knew. Everyone, do you think I'm the most handsome? What do you think? Do you see any similarities? The entire venue was deathly silent. There was still not a single sound. Everyone present naturally knew about I'm the most handsome, but they would never have imagined that the same scene in the West District would play out in the East District in front of them. Everyone was completely dumbfounded. That Jean Haubois was really like Lung Haomiao in the Western District, unable to withstand a single blow and easily crushed. One move. No, not even one move. He solved the problem with just a raise of his hand. Li Chengfeng, Chu Renxian and Gong Shong, who were watching the battle from afar, were extremely shocked by the scene before them. Chu Yang was actually this terrifying. Jean Haubois' strength shouldn't be too different from theirs, but when he fell into Chu Yang's hands, he could only become a sledgehammer and use it to smash the mountain. If that was the case, when they were in the East Martial Institution, if they had challenged Chu Yang, wouldn't it be very likely that they would end up like this? However, at that time, I'm the most handsome hadn't appeared yet. Even if they lost, they wouldn't have lost so miserably. Even if they died, they wouldn't have died so sullenly. The three of them couldn't help but rejoice that I'm the most handsome hadn't appeared at that time. However, when they realized how they were feeling, they couldn't help but laugh. Chu Yang had truly shocked them. The three of them even suspected that when Chu Yang fought with the Luo Yun Martial Institution's 6th-level Chi Soul Realm Elder, Chu Yang hadn't displayed his full strength. Even if the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution's Sima and didn't make a move, the Luo Yun Martial Institution's Elder might not have been able to do anything to Chu Yang. This is going to be interesting. With the addition of a strong person like Chu Yang, the three of them couldn't help but coldly stare at their respective opponents. When the North and South districts teamed up, they would never have thought that such a monster would appear in their Eastern district. Chu Yang's appearance had displayed an incomparably powerful strength, and that shocking scene had caused the atmosphere of the entire battlefield to change involuntarily. Chapter 320. Do the two of you have anything to say? Chu Yang was already staring at Shangguan Xian and Tu Xiangming. He smiled faintly and said, "There is no problem with a man being lecherous. There is also no problem with a man bullying a woman. The problem is that one of you is my elder sister. Tell me, what should I do with you two?" Shangguan Xian and Tu Xiangming couldn't help but step back. They were extremely vigilant and quickly distanced themselves from Chu Yang. Earlier on, Chu Yang was too overbearing and the strength he displayed was too shocking. Jean Haubois' strength was on par with them but was like a chicken or dog in Chu Yang's hands. He was so weak that the two of them were extremely fearful. They were truly afraid that they would end up like Jean Haubois, especially since they had crossed regions to come here. Even if they died, they wouldn't die. Don't be intimidated by him. He is just using the title of I am the most handsome to intimidate you. Can't you see it? On Chengfeng's side of the battlefield, a young man with a faint lotus mark between his eyebrows roared angrily, reminding Shangguan Xian and Tu Xiongming of the situation. This brother has truly hit the nail on the head. Chu Yang looked over and said, I am indeed using a tiger's skin to intimidate you. I am truly impressed that you were able to see through it with a single glance. May I ask for your name? When you die later, I will know who you are. You actually have such good eyesight. The other party had good eyesight and was obviously mocking him. Haha. Everyone from the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution couldn't help but laugh. Others might not know, but how could they not know? Chu Yang was I am the most handsome. However, they were lamenting in their hearts, junior brother Chu is getting more and more perverted. Zhong Tian and the rest of the Coiling Dragon Martial Institute's disciples had the same feeling. They had the deepest impression of Chu Yang. They had witnessed Chu Yang's growth step by step. It seemed as though Chu Yang's strength would soar after a period of time. Yi Chimei looked at the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution that was filled with laughter. She truly didn't know why the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution was so confident in Chu Yang. That person from the north-south region was speaking the truth. Chu Yang was only a single person. How many nails could a single person crush? Therefore, she also thought that Chu Yang was using his handsomeness to bluff and scare the other party. However, when she looked up at Chu Na beside her, she saw that Chu Na had already sent a warning look at Chu Yang. She even gritted her teeth and said, "Little sheep, you don't know when to stop. If you continue to cause trouble, I will definitely skin you alive." Yi Chimei couldn't help but be stunned. This new friend of hers, although they hadn't known each other for long, had a similar temperament as her. Otherwise, the two of them wouldn't have become close so quickly. Senior brother Ouyang, you're right. He's just one person. He really thinks that I'm the handsomeness. What a joke. Shangguan Xian moved. His figure was like a flash of lightning. He rushed toward Chu Yang and shot out a palm. Chu Yang didn't know what palm technique it was, but it was extremely powerful. Under the vibration of the qi, the air exploded with a rumbling sound. It was even more crackling in the private room. A bolt of lightning struck toward Chu Yang at lightning speed. Boom. At the same time, Tu Xiongming also made his move. Flames surged around his body as he also struck out a palm strike. Palm shadows filled the sky as a tongue of fire instantly swept out. It had the power to set the prairie ablaze. Yi Chimei was about to make a move to help Chu Yang, but she was stopped by Chu Na. Senior sister, you don't have to worry about him. You just have to protect our people from getting injured. Such an attack was extremely shocking. As an elder sister, wasn't she worried about her younger brother at all? Yi Chimei stared blankly for a moment. Soon after, she realized that she was indeed worried for nothing. Chu Yang didn't seem serious at all. He said in a sloppy manner, "The two of you are so awesome. You scared me to death." Boom. Chu Yang also struck out a punch. At the same time, he shouted, "I admire my handsomeness fist." The first style, endless torrential river. Boom. 1 against 2, the three forces fiercely collided together. Endless waves of qi were raised. Deng deng deng. Chapter 321. Where do you think you're going? Take the second move of my most handsome fist, overflowing yellow river, unstoppable. In the face of Chu Yang's attack, Shangguan Xian and Tu Xiongming joined hands to resist it, and their momentum shook the heavens. In that instant, the two of them became extremely tacit. Their attacks were almost synchronized. The attacks were launched at the same time and arrived at the same time, almost resonating with each other. The power of the thunder and fire became even more ferocious and domineering, welcoming Chu Yang's punch that was like the wrath of an overlord. Boom. There was a huge explosion, and the flames exploded. The lightning quintessential yuan exploded, and wherever it went, there was a crackling sound, but it was still useless. Bang bang bang! Shangguan Xian and Tu Xiangming were instantly sent flying. How is this possible? He's only at the 3rd layer of the Chi Soul realm. The two of us at the 4th layer of the Chi Soul realm are still not his match? Bang bang! The moment the two of them fell to the ground, before they could turn around, Chu Yang had already arrived and grabbed their heads without any explanation. He said with a smile, "I saw I am the most handsome colliding with people's faces. That look is very cool. I also want to try and express my admiration for I am the most handsome, you too. Do you have any objections?" Would there be any use in having objections? Of course not. Bang bang bang! The two of them collided with each other fiercely. In just a few moments, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. How dare you! It was the young man with the lotus mark between his eyebrows who roared angrily. He actually broke free from the battlefield and flew towards Chu Yang. "I'm expressing my admiration for I am the most handsome. You interrupted such a sacred event, you're guilty." Bang! Chu Yang threw Shangguan Xian and Tu Xiangming to the young man. At the same time, he said, "In the name of I am the most handsome, I will judge you." Boom! The two of them collided in mid-air and a dazzling light exploded. For a moment, no one knew who won or lost. However, the result was quickly revealed. Chu Yang used people as hammers again and hammered the ground. Bang bang bang! The ground shook and dust rose into the sky. Run! Some of the people from the North and South District who were fighting with the three of them ran away first. Bang! Who dares to escape? Whoosh! Chu Yang tossed the person in his hand aside, and with a burst of speed, he instantly caught up to the person. As soon as they came into contact, he defeated the person, grabbed him, and smashed him. With a loud rumble, Chu Yang's cold voice resounded through the entire area. "I'm expressing my admiration to I'm the most handsome. Whoever dares to run away is the greatest contempt for I'm the most handsome. Let alone I'm the most handsome, even if it's me, we will definitely not let you off." His gaze swept across the crowd. "Whoever tries to escape again, I will deal with him. I will use you all to express my utmost respect to my handsomeness. I will also judge you all on behalf of my handsomeness." He was expressing his admiration and respect for her. Was it good for her to brag about herself like this? Everyone from the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution felt that their junior brother Chu was becoming more and more shameless. Whoosh! Whoosh! Chu Yang's words could not possibly shock the people present. The people in the North and South districts, especially those with higher cultivation, were still running in all directions. Damn it, are my words so useless? Chu Yang's face couldn't help but darken. His figure flashed like lightning and instantly caught up with those who were running in all directions. Chapter 322. Chu Yang was carrying two people in his hands, but his speed didn't decrease in the slightest. None of the people who tried to escape were able to escape. Chu Yang used people as weapons and smashed them all to the ground. Some people were even beheaded by him on the spot. The people from the North and South districts stopped running. The whole place was dead silent. Is there anyone else who wants to run away? No one answered. That's good. Chu Yang smiled and said, "You have to show the greatest respect to my handsomeness. Now, all of you kneel down, put your hands on your head, and maintain a good posture." At first, no one moved. But, when Chu Yang glared at them, some of them immediately knelt down. Then, all of them knelt down with a swoosh sound. In the end, no one stood up to resist. You all really disappoint me. I was waiting for you all to come up together. Then I can learn from my handsomeness and knock you all to the ground. Finally, I will dig a hole and bury you alive. The people from the North and South districts were shocked. Some were glad, and some were annoyed. Perhaps if they attacked together, they could have crushed Chu Yang. But now, there was no chance. Some of you, go dig a few big holes. Bury all these people who have no respect for my handsomeness. Immediately, there were people who went to dig a hole. Chu Yang glared at them and roared, "Shouldn't you guys be like those people in the Western District and resist for a while? Then, I can threaten you guys and bury you guys while I'm at it. You guys are really not up to par." The people from the north and south districts were still hostile to those who took the initiative to dig holes. But now, they were sweating. They almost fell into Chu Yang's trap. This was also a top-notch person. He could not be judged with common sense. Yi Chimei looked at this scene and instantly fell silent. When she looked at Chu Na again, she finally understood why Chu Na was not worried at all. Was there a need to worry? It was fine as long as Chu Yang did not bully people. You all did very well just now. Chu Yang called out Gong Shong, Chu Renxian, and Li Chengfeng, scaring them. What are you afraid of? I'm really praising you. Chu Yang smiled and said, those from the northern and southern districts were disobedient. They escaped, but you guys didn't chase after them. You only let me shine. You guys did a good job. I'm very satisfied. Even a ghost would know that you were being sarcastic. Gong Shong and the other two couldn't help but mutter in their hearts. Chu Yang might attack them later to punish them for not doing anything. They couldn't help but say to Chu Na in unison, Junior Sister Chu, the three of us really weren't doing nothing just now. It's just that we didn't react in time. Please forgive us, Junior Sister Chu. What was going on? If these three awesome people wanted forgiveness, they should ask for Chu Yang's forgiveness. How could they ask for Chu Na's forgiveness? Everyone from the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution laughed involuntarily and silently praised the trio for their brilliance. At this moment, only Chu Na would be able to restrain Chu Yang. No one else would be able to do anything. Three senior brothers, you guys are overpraising this junior sister. Chu Na became the center of attention and couldn't help but feel annoyed. She immediately roared like a lion, little sheep, you better know when to stop. Little sheep. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chu Yang was such a ruthless person, and he was actually called a little sheep. Many of them couldn't help but have a strange expression. Such a nickname was simply too incongruous with Chu Yang. Chu Yang's face turned black as he looked dangerously at the three culprits, Gong Shong and the other two. The three of them immediately fled to Chu Na's side. Little sheep, are you still going to cause trouble? Chu Yang immediately raised his hands in surrender. Sister Nana, how would I dare to do that? Didn't I just praise my three senior martial brothers? Senior Sister Chu, please spare us. Senior Sister Chu, please spare us. Senior Sister Chu, please spare us. It was unknown which one of the people from the north and south districts was quick-witted. When they saw this scene, they immediately begged Chu Na for mercy. This made Chu Yang's face turn black. With Chu Na's existence, Chu Yang couldn't continue tormenting. However, the people from the north and south districts had naturally paid the price. What happened next wasn't much to say. The south, and north districts were all annihilated, leaving only the east district. Chapter 323. When the five-element sect's 10 peak masters saw this scene through their heavenly eyes, the Thousand Sword Peak's peak master, Du Guangbo, said, "Don't you think that this Chu Yang might be that little dog?" The sloppy king Uncle Long Feiqi immediately looked at him with disdain. "Are you stupid? If little dog is this Chu Yang, he will associate himself with I'm the most handsome. Isn't that the same as exposing himself?" Sui Yunfu thought for a moment and agreed, since that little dog has the intention to hide, he won't be exposed so easily. Although he might be deliberately confusing us, it is still not advisable. The risk of being exposed is too great. Therefore, this Chu Yang shouldn't be that little dog. This is great. Because of this little dog, it caused a chain reaction. This assessment is considered to be ruined. When Du Guangbo mentioned this, Sui Yunfu couldn't help but frown. The truth was as such. If it wasn't for the collapse of the western region, the northern and southern regions wouldn't have made such a move. Sigh, a piece of rat shit spoils the whole pot of soup. Sui Yunfu let out a long sigh. Since little dog is a piece of rat shit, then do as you please. Don't fight with me. That Chu Yang is your target. The sloppy king Uncle Long Feiqi immediately said. He was determined to get little dog, and his words instantly caused the 10 peak masters to quarrel. Although this assessment was ruined, there were indeed two outstanding disciples. These two people were capable of sweeping away 1,000 troops. One of them could fight against 1,000 people. Which of the 10 peak masters wasn't tempted? If one of the two became their disciple, that generation of disciples would sweep through all the peaks. If they didn't, they would be swept away. The difference was like heaven and earth. Therefore, they were naturally quarreling. As for the result of the quarrel between the 10 peak masters, no one could snatch the disciple. Whether it was Chu Yang or that little dog, the disciple would belong to whoever he became their disciple. It all depended on luck. This was the best result. Otherwise, the 10 peak masters would have to fight one round first. Whoever won would get such an awesome disciple. After the illusory demon hidden realms entrance exam ended, the entrance exam began soon after. Basically, it was only the disciples from the East District who were fighting. The foreign disciples who were not from the Five Elements sect's martial courtyard also benefited from this, and many of them stood out. The results were mixed, and the 10 peak masters had already expected it. Chu Yang did not participate in the competition, as it was meaningless. His goal was only to become an inner disciple. Now that he had achieved that, he had no interest in becoming a core disciple or a true disciple before he was strong enough. This time, the Five Elements sect's entrance competition did not determine the champion. In the end, the top three were Chengfeng, Chu Renxian, and Gongshong. Chengfeng was the first to give up, followed by Chu Renxian and Gongshong. The champion of the entrance competition had already been announced, but that person had not come to participate. If they were to become the champion of the entrance competition, because of Chu Yang's existence, the title would not be real. Therefore, if they were to become the champion, they would be laughed at by others. Therefore, they decided to forget about it. Meanwhile, crack. A white porcelain cup shattered under Ndehu's 5 fingers with a crack. Ndehu sat calmly at the top. His handsome face did not have any expression. However, below him, a disciple at the 9th level of the Chi Soul realm was already drenched in cold sweat. Russian, did you just say that the small mission I gave you actually failed? Ndehu's voice was calm, but to those who were familiar with him, it was bone-chilling. Senior brother, please forgive me. I didn't expect that he would be able to escape even though 2 6th level Chi Soul stage martial artists, 2 5th level Chi Soul stage martial artists, and 4 4th level Chi Soul stage martial artists would all die. Senior brother, please believe me once more. This time, I will personally kill this bastard. Russian was extremely terrified. As for how that bastard managed to escape, only God knew. Chapter 324. Senior brother, if you really can't stand this bastard's impudence, I'll personally take action right now and make him beg for death. Russian's words came to an abrupt halt as a sudden chill enveloped him. He raised his head and met Ndehu's gaze, which was as cold as 1,000-year-old ice. Russian could not help but shiver in his heart, and his entire body trembled. Killing an inner disciple who just passed the assessment in the Five Elements sect? Russian, do you think I'm a fool or a lunatic? Russian fell to his knees with a thud and repeatedly slapped his face. Senior brother, I'm a fool, I'm crazy. Although the sect's elders and peak masters never forbid their disciples from competing with each other, and even encourage it, it's a different matter if it's a blatant assassination. Blatant and unscrupulous assassination. If it was not forbidden, how chaotic would the Five Elements sect become? Therefore, the Five Elements sect absolutely could not tolerate such a thing, and they abhorred it bitterly because it would even shake the sect's foundation. Therefore, as long as Ndehu dared to do so, no matter who he was, he would attract big trouble. After all, the Five Elements sect was not a devil sect. They could not kill people as they pleased. They had to at least find an excuse or a reason. If one did not even find an excuse or a reason, the Five Elements sect would not know how to spare one even if they wanted to. Ndehu coldly glanced at Russian. You still know? He sneered. If we could casually kill our sect's disciples back then, Chu Fei, that bastard, would have been a dead man long ago. How could Russian not know about the former unparalleled saint, Chu Fei? There was a true disciple who brazenly tried to assassinate Chu Fei, but Chu Fei escaped. In the end, the true disciple was directly killed by the Five Elements sect. At that time, this matter caused a huge commotion. Many of the Five Elements sect's true disciples and even the Holy Sun were warned. And Deity obviously didn't want to be the next one, especially since Chu Yang's performance in the Huanmo secret land was simply too stunning. He had single-handedly turned the tide and defeated the alliance of the northern and southern districts. If such a character was killed or assassinated for no reason, the Five Elements sect would definitely investigate this matter. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread outside, who would dare to enter the Five Elements sect? As for that little bastard Chu Yang, if I could just kill him, would I still need you? What worried Deity the most was that if Chen Aoshue knew such a thing, the image he had painstakingly created in Chen Aoshue's heart would completely collapse. This was something that Deity absolutely could not accept. Chen Aoshue was the granddaughter of the Supreme Elder. Obtaining her would be even better than obtaining the title of Holy Sun. He couldn't lose the big picture for the small. And Russian. Deity suddenly stood up and said, I asked you to follow me so that you could help me solve my problems, not to make trouble for me. Since that little bastard Chu Yang has already become an inner disciple, as long as you can't find a good reason in the Five Elements sect, you can't touch him. Do you understand? Then he added, especially after this matter, you have to be more careful. I'm afraid that such a thing can't be hidden from others. If they have something on you, they will tell junior sister Aoshue. Yes, senior brother. And Russian already knew Deity's scruples, Chen Aoshue. In the sect, there were countless people who wanted to win Chen Aoshue's heart. And Deity was not the only one. If those people spread this matter, for a moment, Russian couldn't help but panic. However, you don't have to be too cautious. Deity couldn't help but feel jealous when he thought of the scene where Chu Yang flirted with Chen Aoshue. He said coldly, pass down my words. Tell the disciples in the Merit Hall, Martial Arts Hall, Mission Pavilion, and Elixir Hall to take care of this little bastard. Chapter 325. Russian was startled and immediately understood. Senior brother, don't worry. I know what to do. I will definitely take care of that little bastard. Russian, don't disappoint me again. I am very busy. Don't always make me unhappy over such trivial matters. Senior brother, don't worry. I underestimated that little bastard previously. This time, I will handle it personally. I will not let that little bastard have any chance to make a comeback. Russian was already drenched in cold sweat. That better be the case. Deity's expression cleared up slightly. He flicked his sleeves and immediately walked out. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly stopped. After that little bastard was assassinated by us, he will definitely be under a lot of pressure. Therefore, he will definitely try his best to increase his cultivation. As such, he will definitely go to the Mission Pavilion to accept the sect's missions and think of a way to make a fuss in this aspect. Russian's heart shook when he heard this. Immediately, a feeling of admiration rose in his heart. He said sincerely, Senior brother is indeed wise. I know what to do. Deity nodded. His body swayed and turned into a rainbow before disappearing without a trace. On the other side, Chen Aoshue and the future sister-in-law that Chu Yang mentioned, Ding Sitong, were together. Ding Sitong had already gone to the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution and met with Chu Fei. As for what they talked about, no one knew. Junior sister, do you know the identity of that little bastard that you mentioned? Chen Aoshue pouted her small mouth. Once Chu Yang was mentioned, she got angry. Isn't that little bastard from the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution? What other identity could he have? How capable could he be? How capable could he be? Ding Sitong couldn't help but be absent-minded. She didn't know how capable Chu Yang was, but according to Chu Fei's words, he was even worse than Chu Yang's dog fart. The unparalleled saint of the Five Elements sect used to be so elegant, but there was actually a day when he felt that he was inferior to a certain someone. Ding Sitong really couldn't imagine it, but there was one thing that she felt extremely deeply. Chu Fei was originally disheartened, but after returning to the Coiling Dragon Martial Institution, she regained her confidence because of Chu Yang. She even felt that Chu Fei was even more confident than before. He actually barbarically hugged her into his embrace and refused to let go. He even nibbled on her until her body went soft. In the past, this would have been impossible. Even if Chu Fei had become the unparalleled saint, he would still feel a little inferior in front of her. Thus, he would definitely not cross the line. However, after losing an arm, his cultivation level had been reduced to its original state, and Chu Fei had instead become rampant. The change was due to confidence, so Ding Sitong really didn't know what ability that shameless little rascal who directly called her sister-in-law had to actually make Chu Fei have such confidence. Unfortunately, Chu Fei kept it a secret and didn't speak of it in detail. He only asked her to return to the Five Elements sect and take care of Chu Yang when necessary. She understood Chu Fei's worries. After all, in order to become the saint, he had offended many people. How could these people not transfer their resentment to Chu Yang? Putting this aside for now, Chen Aoshue before her was a huge problem that she had to deal with for Chu Yang. This junior sister Aoshue of hers was a femme fatale. Because of her identity, she was even more of a femme fatale in the Five Elements sect. He is Chu Fei's younger brother. Chu Fei. Chen Aoshue was slightly stunned and immediately exclaimed, "Unparalleled saint." Ding Sitong nodded, "Now you understand why I came to find you. This little rascal already has many enemies in the Five Elements sect. In addition, junior sister is a femme fatale. He might really be consigned to eternal damnation. Senior sister, you are the femme fatale." The two of them started to quarrel. After a while, Ding Sitong finally opened her mouth. "Junior sister, take it that I'm begging you. For the sake of him saving my life, don't go looking for him before he has a firm foothold in the sect. Any one of those flies behind you is enough to make him suffer." "What does it have to do with those flies? I just hate that little rascal. He actually dared to throw an ugly thing at me. It made my eyes dirty." Ding Sitong couldn't help but laugh. Chu Yang threw a naked man at her junior sister. She clearly remembered this junior sister's reaction at that time. She screamed so loudly that her eardrums were about to burst. "Junior sister, as the saying goes, love is love. You gnashed your teeth at that little rascal. The flies are probably already jealous. They will probably think that you like that little rascal. Who would like that little rascal?" Seeing Chen Aoshue gnashing her teeth, Ding Sitong just smiled. It was really hard to say. Chapter 326. The Divine Command Peak was a majestic mountain with beautiful ridges and ridges. Ancient vines entwined around it, and its winding paths led to a secluded place. Some were like giants with their chests puffed out, some were like fairies twisting their waists, some were like treasured swords piercing through the blue sky, and some were like silver dragons dancing in the sky. The mountains were dark like iron, solemn and dignified. At the very center of the mountain stood a misty giant peak. This was the Divine Command Peak. At this moment, even though the sun was hanging high in the sky, white mist still enveloped and separated the mountains like a white veil. Only the green peaks could be seen, and it truly looked like a refreshing, dense, and exquisite landscape painting. As he walked closer, through the mist, the exposed rock walls and precipitous rocks could be seen. Some were crimson red, while others were bronze. Together with the green trees, green grass, and crimson flowers, it seemed exceptionally magnificent. The mountain peak stood tall and straight, and the four seasons were brilliant between heaven and earth. It was an exemplary sight, and it gave people the feeling that they would never get tired of looking at it. This was a wondrous sight. From Chu Yang's point of view, this place was definitely a tourist attraction. The reason why Chu Yang chose the Divine Command Peak was very simple and crude. There were demon beasts here, so there should be demon cores. That was the only reason. In any case, the 10 peaks were more or less the same, but they focused on different things. At this moment, outside the main hall of the Divine Command Peak, 2 tall figures walked out side by side. They were Chu Renxian and Chu Yang. After the two of them reported to the Divine Command Peak, they officially joined the Divine Command Peak. As for the two of them meeting, it was naturally a coincidence. Chu Renxian did not know that Chu Yang had chosen the Divine Command Peak. To him, joining the Divine Command Peak with Chu Yang was both a good and bad thing. Brother Chu's strength is exceptional. I'm afraid that there are very few inner disciples who can compare to you. Chu Renxian was very surprised that Chu Yang did not become a core disciple directly. In his opinion, if Chu Yang wanted to, it would be an easy task. Brother Chu, this five-element sect is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Chu Yang sighed in his heart. He had finally entered the five-element sect, but it was only the beginning. The East Continent, the Sky Academy, and his fiancée. For a moment, he thought of many things. His big brother, Chu Fei, was an amazing talent, but he had been defeated in the Sky Academy. The five-element sect was just a small place. Brother Chu, you're too modest. If we're talking about strength, there are indeed many inner disciples who are stronger than us. However, if we're talking about strength, I'm afraid there aren't many of them who can be your opponent. Chu Renxian was not flattering him. He was just telling the truth. The strength that Chu Yang had displayed 3 days ago had instantly crushed the northern and southern districts. That scene was still vivid in his mind. It was simply the strength of one person suppressing 10,000 people. With the end of the entrance examination, many disciples were scattered among the peaks in 3 days to avoid the imbalance of strength among the peaks. However, Chu Renxian found that Chu Yang was an exception. He had the right to make his own decisions, and the peak masters of the 10 peaks did not seem to have any intention of fighting over Chu Yang. Chu Yang has the right to make his own decisions. I'm afraid it's the result of the competition between the peak masters of the 10 peaks. The two of them were thinking about different things. The Crooked Blade Immortal was thinking more about Chu Yang. A person like Chu Yang would definitely attract the attention of the 10 peak masters. However, he didn't know which peak masters were paying attention to him. For someone like Chu Yang, it wouldn't be strange if the peak masters of the 5 peaks took action to take him in as a disciple. Not having any arrangement was actually the biggest arrangement. Chapter 327. For example, the Pang Dragon martial institutions Li Hao and Zhong Tian would enter the Thousand Swords Peak, the Heaven Thunder Peak, and the White Tiger Peak respectively. Chu Na and Wang Xiaoman would enter the Lotus Peak because of Yi Chimei. This was the best arrangement for the two girls. After all, the Lotus Peak was dominated by females and they wouldn't be reduced to the vassals of the male disciples. Chu Renxian's Nine Bends martial institution was also the same. Otherwise, the Coiling Dragon martial institution would definitely follow Chu Yang and the Nine Bends martial institution would definitely follow Chu Renxian. As a result, the addition of small groups would create a bad influence. The competition during the entrance exam and the hostility between the various martial institutions would continue. It wouldn't be beneficial for the new disciples to integrate into the big family of the five-element sect. Of course, the competition in the big family of the five-element sect was even more intense. In fact, the five-element sect didn't prohibit or restrict the disciples from forming groups. However, the identity of the disciples forming groups had to be the five-element sect's disciple and not their original identity. Therefore, after they were separated, in this unfamiliar divine command peak, the new disciples from the various martial academies or external disciples who had entered the five-element sect would naturally gather together. Chu Renxian was a very good example. He was indeed used to being the eldest disciple as many disciples quickly gathered around him. In the five-element sect where experts were as numerous as clouds, the new disciples would have similar feelings under the invisible pressure. It was very easy for them to get along with each other. However, if the new disciples didn't stick together, it would be extremely easy for them to be bullied by the senior disciples. As for the big family of the five-element sect, it was basically a group of people who were in conflict with each other. During the entrance exam that was held once a year, the competition between these groups was the most intense because this was a great opportunity for them to expand their own groups. Especially for people like Chu Yang and Chu Renxian, they were the focus of roping them in. Chu Yang didn't have any interest in forming cliques or fighting for power. This five-element sect was just a scenery in his life journey. He wouldn't leave this place no matter how beautiful the scenery was. And, he wasn't aiming to fight for the position of the five-element sect's lord. It was difficult for newcomers to survive. If they did not stick together, it would be very difficult for them to survive. Chu Renxian had thought a lot. Now was the time for him to rope in Chu Yang. Brother Chu, now that both of us have joined the Divine Command Peak, we'll be fellow disciples from now on. Please give us more guidance in the future. Chu Renxian deliberately improved his relationship with Chu Yang. Chu Yang was not disgusted by this. He could understand the pressure that Chu Renxian and the others felt. Chu Renxian and the others were all outstanding talents in their respective martial courtyards. However, they were nothing in the Five Elements sect now. It was normal for them to feel pressure. Brother Chu is too polite. The two of us can't be considered to be from the same sect, but we are already from the same sect. Naturally, we will support each other. After a while, Chu Yang joked, Brother Chu, don't think that I don't know that you're the leader of the new disciples. You're very impressive. In the future, Brother Chu should take care of this junior brother of mine. Take care of you? I'm still waiting for you to take care of me. Look, I'm here to look for you. Chu Renxian smiled bitterly and said, Brother Chu, don't make fun of me. I'm just trying to protect myself. Immediately after, he frowned and said, it doesn't seem like there's any problem now. However, in a few days, the senior disciples factions will definitely send people over. I won't hide it from Brother Chu. Actually, before I officially joined the Divine Command Peak yesterday, there were already 2 lofty factions looking for me. They hope that I can join them. Chu Yang stopped laughing. The problem that Chu Renxian was facing was probably the same problem that he was facing. Should he kneel or stand? What does Brother Chu plan to do? Chu Renxian's gaze was faint. I'm used to being arrogant. I reckon that it would be very difficult for me to learn to be a dog. This was his pride. However, if the senior disciples were to suppress him, it would definitely not be easy to deal with. Chapter 328. Have you thought it through? The Crooked Blade Immortal's question was a thorny one. It was not easy to refuse the invitations of these factions in the Five Elements sect. If one refused, it meant that the suppression would begin. Regardless of whether one was open-minded or narrow-minded, it would be the same. Seeing Chu Yang's silence, Chu Renxian could not help but smile bitterly. He had established a faction by himself and became its leader. The pressure was even greater. He was the target of suppression by those senior disciples. He was afraid that the major factions would join forces to suppress him because he was too arrogant. Although he was the #1 person in the Nine Songs Martial Academy, he was insignificant in the Five Elements sect. Among the hundreds of new disciples gathered, there were not many who could be put in an important position. It was just that there were many of them. Therefore, it was not that there were no outstanding disciples in the past who wanted to integrate the new disciples to contend with those senior disciples. However, they soon collapsed under the joint pressure of those factions. This was the reason. Chu Yang suddenly felt a lot of pressure. However, he suddenly felt relaxed and said to himself, if I can settle all these, I will also wash up and sleep. I don't need to think about the beauties in the Sky Academy. Haha. Chu Yang suddenly laughed. Brother Chu, we'll just deal with whatever comes our way. The senior disciples are just some clowns who entered the sect first. Even if we can't suppress them for the time being, we can at most be a coward for the time being. We'll settle everything in the future. Haha. Chu Renxian also laughed loudly. I can't imagine Brother Chu being a coward. I'm afraid that scene will be very interesting. Then we'll have to see if they have the ability to do so. Let me be a coward for now. Chu Yang said coldly, do they dare to suppress Brother Chu and me to be cowards? Do they dare? These words were domineering. Chu Renxian was also filled with lofty sentiments. How could he be inferior to those who had entered the door first? Now, you do what you want, and I do what you want. When the time comes, don't regret it. Whether it was Chu Yang or the Crooked Blade Immortal, it was impossible for them to submit to anyone and be ordered around by others. This was related to their pride, their beliefs, and even more so to their martial path. If their backbone was broken and they learned to bark like a dog, how could they talk about martial path? With their martial wills scattered, it also meant that their progress in the martial Tao would stop here. Without a firm heart and backbone, how could they contend for supremacy and laugh proudly at the world? The two of them chatted and laughed along the way. Chu Renxian realized that Chu Yang wasn't the best at all. He was just very egotistical and had a strong personality. He was completely unaffected by other people's gazes and was very unrestrained. If one were to talk about feelings, perhaps it should be following one's heart and freedom. If Chu Yang was to be the best, it would mean that he was completely unrestrained. Or perhaps he had completely thrown caution to the wind and wanted to fight to the death with you. Of course, this was an enemy. For people who were familiar with Chu Yang's best behavior, it should be repeated frequently. Chu Renxian realized that he didn't have the qualifications to do so. At least, when Chu Yang chatted with him, Chu Yang didn't have the slightest trace of such behavior. The two of them had their own courtyards. Soon, they bid farewell to each other and returned to their own homes. In the courtyard where the new disciples lived, Chu Yang, as an inner disciple, was generally treated like this. It was extremely exquisite, with pavilions, terraces, and pagodas. It was like a garden. Because the courtyard was located on a small branch of a spirit vein, and because there was a formation set up, the entire courtyard was filled with the essence of heaven and earth. At first glance, it was filled with dense immortal qi as though it was the residence of an immortal. Chu Yang sensed a little and realized that there wasn't only an array that attracted the essence of heaven and earth, there was even a defensive formation set up in the courtyard. As the owner of this place, the core of the formation was in the hands of the owner of the courtyard. No wonder everyone is fighting to be the first to come to the five-element sect. Such cultivation conditions are many times better than the coiling dragon martial institution. Chu Yang sighed. He had to admit that the coiling dragon martial institution's conditions were far inferior to the five-element sect. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. Chapter 329. Different strength, different status, and different treatment. The difference between the two is like the difference between heaven and earth. Chu Yang chuckled. The truth is indeed within the range of a cannon. A flap of a bomber's wings is more effective than any words. This principle is useful no matter which world it is in. Naturally, it wasn't just this. The various resources obtained in the five-element sect were also like this. It was far from comparable to the coiling dragon martial institution. Therefore, this meant that he could rapidly rise in the five-element sect. For example, the points he had obtained in the Huanmo secret realm and the entrance competition were enough for him to redeem and claim his rewards in the merit hall of the Divine Command Peak. What a pity! My 2 million points are gone. Chu Yang smacked his lips and wondered if he should claim the 2 million points. However, he gave up in the end. His identity as the most handsome must not be exposed. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble. Elixirs, treasures, weapons, and cultivation techniques were needless to say. The might of the five-element sex tycoons was even more vivid in certain details. It was like clothes made of unknown materials. It was warm in the winter and cool in the summer. It repelled insects and dust. Moreover, it had a very strong defense. Ordinary swords and sabers wouldn't be able to damage it. Such clothes probably couldn't be found in the coiling dragon martial institution. If it was placed outside, it would definitely be hard to find even with 1,000 gold coins. Chu Yang sensed his surroundings and made sure that there was no one around. He then analyzed all the arrays in his courtyard and started to modify them. He directly arranged the saber light and sword shadow array. He actually wanted to stack the spectre life reaping array, but he stopped. A level 3 saber light and sword shadow array was already shocking enough. If he added the spectre life reaping array, his identity as the most handsome would be as clear as day. This won't do. This saber light and sword shadow array is still a level 3 array. I have to modify it. Just as Chu Yang was about to modify the array, a series of hurried footsteps came from outside the courtyard. Immediately after, a voice called out, "Senior Brother Chu, Senior Brother Chu." Bang! The person came in too hastily and directly crashed into the defensive array, falling on his face. We are disciples of the coiling dragon martial institution. How can we not be flustered? We need to have style, understand? The person who came was a disciple of the coiling dragon martial institution. When Chu Yang released the defensive array, This 16-year-old disciple jumped up like a carp and ran in. His face was filled with astonishment. It had only been a few days since they last met, and his senior brother Chu was up to something again. Coiling Dragon Martial Insti Tushan's disciple, can you not make such a big fuss? You have to learn how to pretend, don't you? Senior brother Chu's character was just like that. Fortunately, this person was already completely familiar with his character. What's wrong? You were so flustered just now. Why aren't you letting out a fart now? Is that blind guy bullying our Coiling Dragon Martial Institution? Chu Yang said as he formed a seal with his hands. The disciple seemed to have suddenly come to a realization. However, when he recalled Chu Yang's reprimand, he began to explain slowly. Senior brother Chu, those senior disciples are simply too much. They have joined forces to pressure us. For the past few days, there have been factions of senior disciples coming to our place to recruit people. However, all our senior and junior brothers and sisters have already joined forces with senior brother Chu Renxian and the others. Therefore, they have begun to deal with us even more harshly. They are demanding that we hand over our monthly salary. If we don't hand it over, we will be beaten up. Using senior brother Chu's words, we have been pressed to the ground and rubbed against each other for the past few days. Now, they are rubbing against us again. Senior brother Chu can't hold on any longer. Chu Yang frowned. He had just separated from Chu Renxian not long ago, and something had already happened. The other party's methods were very ruthless. Weren't these new disciples of the Five Elements sect here for the monthly salary? These resources were the guarantee for the new disciples' cultivation. What was there to play without? Bring me there. Chapter 330. This matter was closely related to Chu Yang, as he was also one of the new disciples. Furthermore, he would be dragged into this matter sooner or later, so he might as well do it now. That's great. Senior brother Chu, as long as you're here, there'll definitely be no problem. The disciple was overjoyed, and quickly led Chu Yang away. Chu Yang followed the disciple out of the courtyard, and soon arrived at a cluster of courtyards. He discovered that the new disciples were all gathered there, and the one leading them was Chu Renxian. At this moment, Chu Renxian was negotiating with 10 senior disciples who were blocking the path with an ugly expression. These senior disciples were all looking at the new disciples coldly, and their expressions were filled with disdain. The 10 senior disciples were all dressed in black, and there was a wolf head embroidered on their sleeves. There were also giant wolves the size of calves by their feet. Black-winged wolves. Every black-winged wolf was at least at the second level of the Chi Soul realm. The Divine Command Peak was skilled in beast taming and puppet controlling, but not every disciple of the Divine Command Peak would walk the path of beast taming and puppet controlling. Most of them focused on their own cultivation, and only those who cultivated these two paths were considered true disciples of the Divine Command Peak. Among the 10 senior disciples, the one leading them looked to be around 25 or 26 years old. There was also a ferocious wolf head tattoo on his wrist. His gaze was cold, and he seemed as cunning and sly as a wolf. Divine Command Peak, Black Wolf Gang. That disciple stood beside Chu Yang and explained the general situation to him. The young man in black took a step forward and said coldly to Chu Renxian, I'll cut to the chase. I'll give you 2 choices. First, hand over all of your monthly salary. Second, you rookies will immediately disband. You don't have the right to establish your own faction. This person's rudeness and overbearingness immediately angered many of the new disciples. He was forcing them into a dead end. Without their monthly salary, what were they supposed to do? You're forcing us into a dead end, a new disciple said angrily. A bunch of idiots. If you don't want to be forced into a dead end, then join our Black Wolf Gang. Otherwise, if you follow our Black Wolf Gang, you'll live, and if you go against us, you'll die. The 10 senior disciples of the Black Wolf Gang had mocking expressions on their faces. Right now, we can't wait for you to not know what's good for you, so we'll have a good reason to deal with you. That's right. I heard that there are a lot of talented disciples this time. That's why the higher-ups gave the rookies a lot of rewards. It should be the most in all of history. This just happens to benefit us. Ha ha. The 10 members of the Black Wolf gang laughed heartily. The faces of many new disciples were suffused with anger. Many of them were the elite geniuses of their respective martial academies. They were the core of their respective martial academies. When had they ever been bullied like this? It had always been them bullying others. The Black Wolf gang was a gang founded by an extremely powerful core disciple. They had at least 1,000 members, and all of them were at the Chi Soul stage or above. Their strength was considered to be at the top among the many factions founded by core disciples. Especially the leader of the Black Wolf gang, Wolf King, who was already at the 9th layer of the Chi Soul stage. It was said that he was about to break through to the Ascending Soul stage. At this moment, Chu Yang also observed the 10 members of the Black Wolf gang. 4 of them were at the 5th layer of the Chi Soul stage, 2 were at the 6th layer of the Chi Soul stage, and the rest were either at the 3rd layer of the Chi Soul stage or at the 1st or 2nd layer of the Chi Soul stage. I can make a move, but that bullshit Wolf King is a problem. Chu Yang was not a reckless person. Naturally, he would make a move with a plan. Let me give you a piece of advice. It's better for you to disband as soon as possible. The leader of the black-clothed youth said indifferently, I've seen many new disciples. It's not like there aren't any who are tough, but in the end, they still can't do anything. This time, those new disciples from outside the sect are more sensible than you. They have already disbanded their groups and joined other factions. Don't go too far. Chu Renxian said coldly, you better think carefully. What you give us today, we'll return it 10 times the next day. So what if we're bullying you? The leader of the black-clothed disciples sneered and said, you'll still be returned to us. It seems like you rookies really don't know what's good for you. Chapter 331. Chu Renxian's long curly hair fluttered in the wind. At this moment, every curly hair was standing straight. He was completely enraged. I said that there would be many geniuses in this year's batch, but you guys really took it seriously. The leading black-clothed youth pointed at Chu Renxian and said, especially you, Chu Renxian. Do you really think that you're an elite? Today, I'll let you know that you're just an idiot, not some bullshit genius. What I love the most is to let geniuses understand the cruel reality. Haha. The leading black-clothed youth laughed loudly and suddenly attacked. His palm turned into a claw, and a cold light flashed as it tore through the air. Like the claws of a giant wolf, it grabbed towards Chu Renxian's head. I'd like to see what's so great about the 6th layer of the Chi Soul realm. The crooked blade immortal roared and completely erupted. He clenched his palm into a fist, and endless fiery red true essence wrapped around his arm. In a trance, his arm turned into a fiery sword. He punched out, and it was like a sword piercing forward. Boom! The fist and the claw fiercely collided. The endless amount of true yuan collided, and a terrifying whirlwind burst out. Flames also scattered in all directions. Deng 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 deng. Chu Renxian retreated more than 10 steps, and the leading black-clothed youth was also forced to retreat 3 steps. His palm was actually in pain, and the flesh on his palm was actually pierced, causing dark red blood to flow out. He had the upper hand and could kill Chu Renxian, but he was actually injured. This was simply humiliation and anger, and he was even more jealous. In order to obtain the strength he had today, he used a full 10 years to go from an outer disciple to a disciple at the peak of the 3rd layer of the Xiantian realm. Although he wasn't the best, at least he wasn't someone who could be bullied by others. But what did Chu Renxian have? What did Chu Renxian have to be a genius? What did he have to be able to block his attack when he was only at the 4th layer of the Chi Soul realm? He had been in the 5 Elements sect for almost 10 years, and he was only at the 6th layer of the Chi Soul realm. The realms after that were somewhat out of reach for him. It might easily take him another 10 years, or even a few decades before he could break through again. Not only was he jealous, but he was also afraid. Not to mention 10 years, a genius like Chu Renxian could probably trample him under his feet in just 1 year. He had been in the 5 Elements sect for so many years, and he had already lost count of how many times he had seen such examples. I have to cripple him. Killing intent flashed in his eyes, but he didn't dare to kill. Even the Black Wolf Gang's Wolf King wouldn't dare to kill a genius disciple like the Crooked Blade Immortal. The face of the leading black-clothed youth instantly turned extremely ugly. He had no choice but to admit that this Crooked Blade Immortal was indeed a genius. And within this batch of new disciples, there were many geniuses, so it was probably not a lie. Thinking of this, the leader of the black-clothed youth's eyes burned with jealousy. He once again attacked Crooked Blade Immortal fiercely. Crooked Blade Immortal also fearlessly faced him. Bang bang bang! Both sides exchanged blows, and violent explosions rang out continuously. Every punch and kick could cause the air to explode. The battle became more and more intense, and the newcomers all jumped away, not daring to get close. The astral winds cut their faces painfully. The two of them were locked in battle. Crooked Blade Immortal's strength was much lower, and being able to last this long was already quite good. As for the black-clothed youth, although he had more experience, Crooked Blade Immortal's talent, his grasp of the rhythm of battle, and his ability to seize opportunities were superior. These formless things were the reason why the Crooked Blade Immortal was able to persist for so long. Many times, these formless things were not something that could be accumulated over time. It was related to talent. Bang! Chu Renxian was defeated. The black-clothed youth stomped on his chest, causing Chu Renxian to curl up like a shrimp. Blood gushed out of his mouth. Newbie, this is the result. Do you understand? The black-clothed youth said mockingly, "Come, let me hear you bark like a dog. Excuse me, can you take your foot away?" Chapter 332. Which dared to meddle in other people's business at this time? Sure. All of a sudden, everyone couldn't help but look over. The new disciples couldn't help but feel a burst of ecstasy. Senior Chu Yang. Among the new disciples, no matter which academy they were from, at this moment, Chu Yang was their savior. Chu Yang, in his green robe, walked over confidently. The crowd automatically made a path for him. The corner of his mouth curved up slightly, and he said indifferently, "Are you deaf? It's not easy for me to be so polite to people. Don't disappoint me, okay?" Arrogant. What was arrogant? Condescending. What is condescending? This was it. The new disciples were stunned and speechless. Chu Yang was even more arrogant and presumptuous than these old disciples. Presumptuous. How dare you speak to senior brother Mi in such a manner? I think he doesn't want to live anymore. The old disciples of the Black Wolf Gang were furious. The 10 black-winged wolves faintly stared at Chu Yang, as if they could pounce and bite Chu Yang to death at any time. The leader of the black-clothed youth's gaze was even colder. He coldly stared at Chu Yang. "Who are you?" "I am the fireworks that are different from others. My name is very famous." "Listen carefully," Chu Yang said with a smile. "I am known as the Little White Dragon in the Jianghu. Everyone loves me, flowers bloom when they see me. I am handsome, elegant, knowledgeable, tall and mighty. I have millions of fans and thousands of young girls. I am known as the Little White Dragon with a pear blossom suppressing begonia. I am Chu Yang." So long. What a long self-praise. The crowd couldn't help but be stunned. They only felt that it was a little difficult to find so many words to praise himself in such a short time. "You are Chu Yang." Because of Chu Yang's contempt, the black-clothed youth's gaze turned cold. "That's right, I am Chu Yang." Chu Yang opened his mouth and said, "I am the first person to express my respect to my most handsome, and also the one who has the highest respect for my most handsome, Chu Yang. Yes, your ears didn't deceive you. I am Chu Yang. When you see me, do you feel so inferior that you want to commit suicide? When you see me, do you feel so inferior that you want to commit suicide?" This time, even the new disciples were completely dumbfounded by Chu Yang. As for the anger of the old disciples, it was easy to imagine. "Chu Yang, right?" The black-clothed youth was so angry that he sneered, "I heard that you were very eye-catching during the entrance exam. I want to see how much ability you have, to actually dare to be so presumptuous in front of me." Boom. The moment the black-clothed youth made his move, the strength of a LV6 Chi Soul Stage cultivator was completely unleashed. In an instant, the air surged like a raging river, and his entire body seemed to be drowned by a vast ocean. Rumbling sounds came from his body, like the sound of a tsunami. It was incomparably shocking. "You want to see my ability?" Chu Yang stood motionless in the same place. He still looked as lazy as before. His tone was still as mocking as before. "Although I don't want to tell you the truth, I'm really sorry. You really don't have this ability." Immediately, Chu Yang's hand swung out like an elephant's trunk. In an instant, the vast ocean seemed to have been peeled in half. That hand seemed to be a heavenly sword, a star, or the god of the four seas. Its speed was extremely fast. At first glance, it seemed like the black-clothed youth was offering his neck. Boom! Waves of air exploded. The black-clothed youth was like a duck being grabbed by the neck. Chu Yang grabbed him by the throat and lifted him up. Chapter 333. How was this possible? Regardless of whether it was the new disciples or the old disciples, even Chu Renxian, who was lying on the ground, they were all dumbfounded at this moment. They could not believe what they had just seen. He was only at the 3rd level of the Chi Soul realm. With just a raise of his hand, a 6th-level Chi Soul realm martial artist was like a duck that was being choked by the neck, unable to quack anymore. How was this possible? How did he do it? Everyone present had their understanding of the world overturned by this scene. It seemed that the 3rd layer of the Chi Soul realm was the higher realm, and the 6th layer of the Chi Soul realm was the lower realm. The arrangement of the 9th layer of the Chi Soul realm was reversed. At first, the dark-skinned young man struggled fiercely. His legs were kicking in the air as if he could break through the void with a kick. He also seemed to be able to soar into the sky. However, he gradually lost his strength and his movements slowed down. It seemed that his legs were getting heavier and heavier. Every time he lifted and landed, he had to use up all of his strength. "How dare you do this? Let go of senior brother Mi. Kill him, we must kill him. We can let anyone go, but not him. He's too arrogant. We old disciples are not worthy of being taught a lesson by a newbie like him." After the old disciples recovered from their shock, they all roared and attacked at the same time. 9 people and 10 vicious wolves moved together. The roars of the people and the howls of the wolves intertwined together. Especially when the 9 people attacked at the same time, the momentum was shocking. It was as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was collapsing. When the new disciples saw this scene, their eyelids twitched. Just as they were about to rush forward and help Chu Yang share some of the burden, a dragon's roar suddenly rang out. A dragon's roar resounded from Chu Yang's body. His aura burst out, causing the air around him to surge out like a stormy sea. His body was like an abyss. With a boom, a flood dragon rushed out like a hidden dragon emerging from the abyss. The Jiao dragons were 3 feet long. They were ferocious and ferocious. Their auras were tyrannical and cold. They looked down on all life and were extremely noble. Suddenly, 100 Jiao dragons rushed out from the abyss. The scene was extremely shocking. The roar of the 100 Jiao dragons resounded throughout the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The 100 Jiao dragons covered the sky and covered the sun. It was as if the heavens were angry and had the power of thunder. What? Everyone present was so frightened by this scene that they all took a step back. Their hearts almost burst into pieces at this moment. 100 flood dragons appeared at the same time. Each flood dragon seemed to have flesh and blood, as if they were real flood dragons. The flood dragon's violent and ferocious aura was already extremely frightening when it spread out. However, there were actually 100 flood dragons. Everyone was frightened by the 100 flood dragons. The 10 vicious wolves and the 9 senior disciples, upon seeing the sudden appearance of the hundreds of flood dragons and forcefully stopping the mountain-like attack, were so frightened that they hurriedly came to a halt. Among the 9 of them, there were even some who were so frightened that they directly fell to the ground. Boom! Hundreds of flood dragons followed behind Chu Yang like an army. They rushed forward like a magnificent army with thousands of men and horses. At this moment, it was as if an army of 100,000 was charging forward. Chu Yang had used force, which was also his concept. This time, the 9 senior disciples were even less of a match. Bang! 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 In an instant, All of them were knocked to the ground. The 10 vicious wolves were also sent flying while howling miserably. They almost died in an instant. Chu Yang wanted to deal with them quickly and efficiently. He wanted to crush them like this. He wanted to intimidate all the senior disciples. The whole place was silent. There was no sound at all. 100 dragons soaring in the sky. As expected of the unparalleled Saint Sun's younger brother. It's really amazing. In the dark, 3 people were watching this scene in shock. Chai Guiyuan, don't panic. The unparalleled Saint Sun's younger brother is indeed amazing. However, most of the 100 flood dragons are fake. I don't believe that you can't see it. Brother Zhuo is right. Among the 100 flood dragons, at most 2 are formed by Jin Yuan. The rest are all fake. Chai Guiyuan, your people have been dealt with. Hurry up and make your move. Otherwise, your Black Wolf gang will lose face. Chapter 334. Make a move. Chai Guiyuan sneered, why aren't you making a move? This move of his is not only a warning to the Black Wolf gang, but also to all of you. Chai Guiyuan, Qing Letong, and Zhuo Haoxi were the leaders of the 3 major gangs of the Divine Command Peak, the Black Wolf Gang, the Puppet Pavilion, and the Sky Sword Party. Isn't it your Black Wolf Gang that made the first move? How can we snatch what others like? That's right. Since the Black Wolf Gang has made a move, if we make a move as well, where will your Black Wolf Gang's face go? We're taking care of your and the Black Wolf Gang's face. Qing Letong, Zhuo Haoxi. Chai Guiyuan sneered, there's no need for that. My Black Wolf Gang is indeed not Chu Yang's match. We'll have to rely on you two to regain the face of our senior disciples. Your words are really interesting. I also find it interesting. The 3 of them mocked each other. Zhuo Haoxi and Qing Letong could already tell that Chai Guiyuan had no intention of making a move against Chu Yang. The 2 of them pointed at the 10 people of the Black Wolf Gang and sneered, since you don't plan to make a move, what's the meaning of these 10 playthings? In a few days, or maybe just a little while, the same playthings will appear in your Puppet Pavilion and Sky Sword Party, right? Chai Guiyuan sneered, there will always be some disobedient subordinates. Moreover, if they don't listen, you can't do anything about it. Am I right? TSK, how boring. Zhuo Haoxi said, I thought you were going to intervene in the battle between the saints. Qing Letong also said, Brother Chai, you don't have to worry too much. Isn't there a rumor that the unparalleled saint has been crippled? That's right. Then why don't you make a move? Chai Guiyuan sneered. Do you really think I'm a fool? Who saw Chu Fei being crippled? Even if Chu Fei was crippled, he wouldn't dare to let his own brother enter the 5 Elements sect without any means. He even suspected that Chu Fei was using Chu Yang to lure out all the enemies of the 5 Elements sect so that he could wipe them out in one fell swoop. On the field, the 100 flood dragons behind Chu Yang had already disappeared. The new disciples were cheering, while the old disciples were overwhelmed with shock. The older disciples had heard that there were a lot of geniuses in this batch of disciples, the most of the previous batches. They didn't think much of it before, but now they were completely shocked. In the past, the new disciples could easily crush those new disciples. However, the geniuses of this batch of new disciples were all very troublesome existences. Some were even terrifying existences. For example, Chu Yang in front of them made many of the older disciples tremble. They had no doubt that this Chu Yang would definitely dare to kill them on the spot. If this matter was brought to the upper echelons, their deaths would be in vain. Not only was Chu Yang a genius, but they were also senior disciples who bullied the weak. So if they were killed in the end, they would only become a laughingstock and trash. Go, who was bullied by them just now? Press them to the ground and rub them against the ground. All right, senior brother Chu, I was just about to vent my anger. At that moment, the 10 members of the Black Wolf Gang pressed their heads against the ground and rubbed them repeatedly. By the way, dig 10 more holes and bury them. Chu Yang spoke again. Suddenly, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Senior brother Chu, this, Chu Renxian on the side also smiled bitterly and said, Brother Chu, we new disciples are open-minded. If we are so calculative, wouldn't it make us look petty? Brother Chu, Your words are very artistic. If you are afraid that I will kill them, then you are afraid that I will kill them. You still know. Crooked Blade Immortal was depressed. Chu Yang smiled and said, you are also stupid. Burying them doesn't mean that they will die. Just bury them normally and expose their heads, just like planting trees. Planting trees. Immediately, someone went and dug 10 holes, planting all 10 members of the Black Wolf gang. Whoosh! At this time, a 5-colored light suddenly broke into the field. It was a small beast. Its whole body was 5-colored, and its hair was like silk. Its eyes were like 2 transparent crystal balls. They were pure and bright, without a trace of impurity. Chapter 335. At this moment, as soon as it appeared, it seemed to be making angry noises from its mouth. At the same time, it used its front paw to press down on the head of a black-winged wolf, imitating the actions of the disciples from before, pressing down on the wolf's head and rubbing it against the ground again and again. Woo-woo! The black-winged wolf let out a warning sound. It was scared out of its wits and dodged with a whoosh, distancing itself far away. But when it saw that the black-winged wolf was just putting on an act, it angrily scurried back and gave the wolf's head a good beating. The little thing seemed to hate the black-winged wolf to the core. It beat the black-winged wolf until it cried out. Then it tried to drag the black-winged wolf away to bury it, but it found that digging a hole seemed to be a big problem for it. Yeah. The little beast's big crystal-like eyes suddenly looked at Chu Yang, then it pointed at the black-winged wolf and cried out non-stop, as if it was saying something. Its face also showed an extremely wronged expression, as if it was saying that the black-winged wolf also bullied it, so it also wanted to bury it. Chu Yang was stunned, and said tentatively, you want me to dig a hole for you and bury it too? Yeah. The little beast nodded, looking extremely cute. Haha. Chu Yang laughed loudly, seeing your cute appearance, I agree. Someone, dig a hole for it and bury that black-winged wolf. In the end, he added, when animals act violently, just bury it alive. Don't give it a chance to live. Yeah. The little beast was startled. It was scared out of its wits. It seemed as if it had encountered something terrible. It anxiously called out to Chu Yang. It seemed as if it was afraid that Chu Yang wouldn't understand what it meant. So, it pointed at those 10 people of the Black Wolf gang. You don't want to hurt its life. The little beast nodded. You want to bury this black-winged wolf like those 10 people, with only its head exposed. The little beast nodded again, indicating that it meant this. Haha. Chu Yang looked at the little beast and felt that it was extremely cute. He felt that if any girl saw this little beast, they would probably love it to death. Okay, we'll do as you say. Haha. When this little beast appeared, everyone couldn't help but burst into laughter. Immediately, the 10 black-winged wolves were all buried, leaving only 10 wolf heads. They formed 2 neat rows with the 10 Black Wolf gang disciples. Brother Chu, it's all thanks to you this time. Otherwise, I reckon I really would have to be a tortoise for the time being. Chu Renxian thanked Chu Yang. It's nothing. Chu Yang paused and said, Brother Chu, since we've already come this far, why don't we form a faction? Brother Chu, what do you mean? The Crooked Blade Immortal was overjoyed at the turn of events as he said. These new disciples had gathered together, and had formed the embryonic form of a faction. However, he couldn't control the situation by himself. However, things would be different if Chu Yang were to join them. Their strength and rallying power would be completely different. Both of us came from the East, so how about we call it the East Arrival Pavilion? Chu Yang's meaning was very clear. Although he didn't want to put his energy into these miscellaneous matters, he couldn't avoid it. He might as well settle it all at once. No problem. Chu Renxian smiled. With Chu Yang's participation, he was even more confident. Everyone, while everyone is here, I will once again announce that Brother Chu and I plan to form a faction together. All the new students of this year can join. Crooked Blade Immortal immediately announced in a loud voice. I want to join the East Arrival Pavilion. Wherever Senior Brother Chu goes, I will go. A new disciple raised his hand and said, I've had enough of being bullied by those old disciples. If I don't want to be bullied, The only way is to band together. That's right, I'll join too. I'll join too. We all have 2 eyes and 1 mouth. Why can those old disciples create factions, but we can only join? We also want to create our own factions. That's right. If others can do it, then our batch is known as the most outstanding batch in history. There's no reason why we can't do it. Among the new disciples, there were countless responses. These days, they had felt the pressure from the old disciples, and had had enough of being a coward. All right, since no one has any objections, then our faction will be officially established. We'll use the name Brother Chu just came up with, East Arrival Pavilion. No one has any objections, right? Chapter 336. YA. Just now, everyone was discussing and concerned about the matters of the East Arrival Pavilion. That 5-colored little beast had been completely forgotten. At this moment, it cried out again, meaning to say, I want to join too. I want to join the East Arrival Pavilion too. Haha. Chu Yang laughed loudly again, and said, Good. You will join the East Arrival Pavilion too. If you are bullied in the future, you can come to the East Arrival Pavilion. At that moment, the little beast actually cupped its hands towards Chu Yang to express its gratitude. Its small appearance was extremely cute, causing everyone to burst into laughter. This little beast was so intelligent and cute that many disciples were very fond of it. After that, the crowd dispersed. Suddenly, the bustle dispersed. The little beast seemed to be a little sad, and as the crowd left, it seemed to realize that there was nowhere else it could go. Chu Yang strode away, and it followed behind Chu Yang. However, it kept a safe distance from Chu Yang. At least, that was the case for it. Little guy. Chu Yang naturally noticed, but when he looked over, the little beast fled more than 500 feet away with a whoosh. It seemed to have turned into a 5-colored ray of light, its speed astonishing. It was very vigilant. This little guy. Just by looking at its speed, I'm afraid it's not simple. Chu Yang didn't think too much about it. When he took a step forward again, he didn't know when this little beast had silently followed behind him. Chu Yang only needed to turn his head, and it would run away with a whiz sound. In the end, Chu Yang couldn't be bothered with it anymore, and directly returned to his own courtyard. Just as he was preparing to cultivate, he noticed a slight fluctuation in the formation. Soon after, the little beast secretly slipped in. It can actually break the formation. Chu Yang was surprised. When he looked at the little critter, it immediately hid in a corner with a whooshing sound. It looked as if it would run away at any time. There was a trace of fear in its transparent pupils. The sunlight fell on its crystal-like pupils, and a rainbow appeared in its crystal-like pupils. Little guy, let me ask you something. Chu Yang naturally didn't force it, and said to it from afar, You know about formations? The little beast nodded. Chu Yang smiled. How about we make a deal? He pointed at the sword shadow array he had set up and said, In the future, no matter who it is, you have to say that this array was set up by you. As a price, you can live in this place and come and go as you please. How about it? The little critter was overjoyed, but it immediately became conflicted. It was like a child who was conflicted over whether or not to lie because of a candy. In the end, it seemed that it still couldn't resist the temptation of the candy and nodded in agreement. Haha, you're so cute. Chu Yang looked at it and liked it very much. He then said, Since we'll be living under the same roof in the future, we should have a name. Little guy, do you have a name? The little beast shook its little head. Then I'll give you one for now. Chu Yang saw that the 5-colored silk-like hair was very beautiful. He immediately said, You are colorless. How about we call you Little 5 for the time being? Little 5? The little beast seemed to be thinking. At this moment, in Chu Yang's consciousness, Little 6 protested, Heaven-blessed big brother, I object. I'm older than it. It's not suitable to call it Little 6. Little Black also said, Omnipotent big brother, this little guy looks like it was just born. If we don't say that we're its big brother, it's better that we're older than it. This way, it'll be a mess who's older and who's younger. Objection overruled. In his consciousness, Chu Yang directly rejected the objections of the 2 apes, little six and little black. Why? The little beast made its childish voice again. It was obviously saying that this wasn't right. It was smaller than little six and little black and couldn't be called little five. Chapter 337. Where exactly did this little guy come from? It's obviously extraordinary. Chuyang couldn't tell where it came from. However, since it objected, he had to act like an obedient baby again. He spoke again, little five, if you don't think it's suitable, how about little Guari? The little beast thought for a moment and nodded. It revealed a joyful expression as if it was cheering. I have a name. Looking at its excited appearance, Chuyang's mood couldn't help but improve. Since you agree, I'll call you that for now. Also, if you don't mind, you can temporarily take my surname and be called Chu Little Guari. How about that? Why? The little beast seemed to be repeating the name Chu Little Guari. Then, it nodded its head in agreement. Haha. Chuyang smiled and said, little darling, let's agree on this. Besides my room, there are other places here. You can choose a place to be your nest. Why? The little beast was very excited. With a whoosh, it turned into a stream of light and entered the house. Chuyang ignored it and began to cultivate. Subsequently, after spending some time with it, the little beast seemed to be less afraid of Chuyang because of little six and little black. It began to follow Chuyang blindly. Little Guari, you really have a big appetite. During lunch, Chuyang roasted about a few dozen kilograms of meat. The little beast only ate about 5 kilograms at most. The rest went into its stomach. It was obvious that it still wanted more, but its stomach was already round. All right, look at you. You can't walk anymore. Little Guari, take care of the house. I'm going to the Hall of Merit. The points obtained in the entrance examination could be exchanged for rewards. This was the 5 Elements sect's care for the new disciples. Chuyang had about 100,000 points. This should be enough to exchange for many good things. Although the Divine Command Peak was huge, Chuyang was extremely fast. He arrived at the Hall of Merit in a short while. A disciple in white was in charge of the Hall of Merit. When he suddenly saw Chuyang's arrival, a strange light flashed across his eyes. Are the new disciples here to exchange points? Seeing Chuyang walking over, the disciple spoke coldly with a haughty look in his eyes. Yes, thank you, senior brother. Chuyang nodded. If you want to redeem it, hand over 50,000 points first. The disciple opened his hand and placed it in front of Chuyang. 50,000 points. Chuyang's complexion changed, and his pupils shrank fiercely. 50,000 points was not a small amount. An ordinary new disciple would not even have 50,000 points. If he wanted to receive some benefits, it would be too much. 50,000 points. I don't think I've heard of such a rule. The disciple blinked, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. What? You're not convinced? Let me tell you, I have the final say in this Hall of Merit. 50,000 points. That was the number, not a single point less. Chemph, you don't have it, do you? If you don't, then scram as far as you can. The 5 Elements sect is not a place where people like you can do whatever you want. His words were harsh and overbearing. Senior brother Tang, senior brother Huang, come and help me. There's a kid here who wants to cause trouble in the Hall of Merit. The disciple waved his hand and summoned a few 5 Elements sect's disciples. What? Cause trouble? Who's so bold? It's that rookie who doesn't know the rules again. A little new disciple dares to cause trouble in the Hall of Merit. Hearing that someone was causing trouble, senior brother Tang, senior brother Huang, and 7 or 8 others immediately gathered around. They did not even look at Chuyang, but looked at the disciple in white. It's him. The disciple in white stretched out his hand and pointed at Chuyang. He said with disgust, "This kid has no points and wants to exchange for items. He wants to act shamelessly and won't leave." What? It's this kid. He's just a little new disciple. How can you behave so atrociously? Chapter 338. Are you sure you want to do this? Swoosh. Chu Yang dodged the attacks of the 7 or 8 people. His eyes turned cold as he stared at the disciple in white. At this moment, his eyes flickered. It should be in something looking for trouble with him again. Until now, Chu Yang still didn't know what in something was called. How dare you be so disrespectful to junior brother Ouyang? You're courting death. A new disciple dares to be so arrogant. If I don't teach you a lesson today, you'll really be ignorant. This is the 5 Elements sect, not where you came from. You can do whatever you want and call yourself a tyrant. You don't have any points and you still dare to cause trouble. You won't be wronged even if I beat you to death. The 7 or 8 people were trying to curry favor with the disciple in white. At the same time, they looked at Chu Yang with cold smiles. Ouyang something Ouyang? Chu Yang didn't care about the 7 or 8 people. The highest cultivation level among them was only at LV6 Chi Soul Realm. He stared coldly at the disciple in white with the surname Ouyang and said, "Didn't something you came to make things difficult for me? You don't know what you're talking about. I'll teach you a lesson today. You can't just get involved in any fight." Swoosh. Chu Yang moved and was about to go for the disciple in white with the surname Ouyang. The 7 or 8 disciples were all enraged. How dare you attack senior brother in the Hall of Achievement? You don't know what's good for you. He dares to attack in the Achievement Hall. Even if we kill him, the elders won't pursue the matter. Boom. The 7 or 8 people attacked at the same time. When they pounced on Chu Yang, they saw 7 or 8 illusions of Chu Yang. For a moment, they didn't know which one was real and which one was fake. They couldn't help but be shocked. Then, they heard a dragon's roar and were all stunned. In just a moment, Chu Yang had already beaten the disciple in white with the surname Ouyang half to death. He grabbed his neck and lifted him up. Hiss, these 7 or 8 people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. They didn't even see what had happened. What kind of strength did this so-called Chu Yang possess? He was actually able to suppress Ouyang Yangrong in an instant. One had to know that Ouyang Yangrong was also at the 6th tier of the Chi Soul realm. At this time, they suddenly remembered Chu Yang's words just now. And what tiger? What and who? Isn't it just and who? This Chu Yang actually had enmity with the successor disciple and who. The 7 or 8 people were shocked. And who had set his eyes on Chu Yang and specially sent people to make things difficult for him. How could such a person be ordinary? We were actually planning to attack such a person. They broke out in cold sweat. It was as if they had just walked through the gates of hell. Just now, they were simply courting death. How could they be a match for someone like Chu Yang? That bastard Ouyang Yangrong almost killed them all. Cough. Ouyang Yangrong couldn't breathe, and strange sounds came from his throat. Seeing that he was about to be choked to death by Chu Yang, none of the 7 or 8 people dared to step forward. Suddenly, Chu Yang's cold gaze swept over them. In an instant, the 7 or 8 people all retreated. Finally, with a plop, they directly knelt down. In their minds, a savage and cruel Jiao dragon was staring at them coldly. That kind of indifference and disregard for all life made them feel terrified. Furthermore, the Jiao dragon's nobility and prestige was something they couldn't bear. Chu Yang said coldly, "Let me ask you a question. You'd better answer honestly. Who sent you to make things difficult for me?" Chu Yang and the others didn't dare to offend him, but Hu and the others didn't dare to offend him. Their bodies couldn't help but tremble. "Looks like you don't plan to tell me, right?" Chu Yang's voice was as cold as ice. He glanced at the 7 or 8 people and said, "You better not regret it later. Senior brother, we really don't know. We were only following junior brother Ouyang Yangrong's orders." They directly called Chu Yang senior brother. One could imagine the fear in their hearts. Chapter 339. Humph. Chu Yang coldly snorted, knowing what they were thinking. He immediately threw Ouyang Yangrong to the ground and coldly said, "Ouyang Yangrong, right? You don't have many choices now. Can you choose to speak or not?" Cough cough. It took Ouyang Yangrong a while to recover. At this time, The commotion in the achievement hall had attracted the attention of many disciples. Who dares to make a move in the achievement hall? Making a move in the achievement hall, how audacious. Don't you know that the achievement hall forbids the use of force? Shoo, shoo. In an instant, numerous disciples appeared in the achievement hall. This made Oyu Yangrong delighted. He pointed at Chu Yang and sneered, "Chu Yang, you're dead meat. Not only are you in the achievement hall, you even attacked the disciples of the achievement hall. You're dead for sure." However, he instantly realized that something was wrong. Many people were looking at him strangely. Soon, he found out the reason from the whispers of the crowd. "Mph, this Oyu Yangrong is used to being domineering. This time, he has finally met his match. He definitely doesn't know how frightening this Chu Yang is. He can summon over 100 Jiao dragons in an instant. How frightening that scene is. How could he possibly know these things? If this boneless thing knew that the 10 people of the Black Wolf gang were no match for Chu Yang and were all buried, he would immediately become as obedient as a pug when he sees Chu Yang. How would he dare to say such arrogant words like just now? 100 dragons crossing the sky. Hei Lang's group of 10 were no match for him, and were all buried. Oyu Yangrong instantly trembled. This is impossible. How is this possible? You're dead meat. Chu Yang bent down and looked at Oyu Yangrong coldly. You mean, you choose not to tell me? Oyu Yangrong was so scared that he scrambled out of the room. His lips trembled as he said, I was only following the rules of the merit and virtue palace, according to the rules of the Hall of Achievements. Chu Yang sneered, according to the Achievement Hall's rules, I have to pay you 50,000 points first, right? 50,000 points. Everyone was astonished. Many of the new disciples don't even have 50,000 points. Is Oyu Yangrong crazy? I think he's blinded by greed and doesn't know what's good for him. 50,000 points. No wonder this Chu Yang went all out. Even if we investigate, I'm afraid he will be safe and sound. He won't be held responsible. This Oyu Yangrong is simply crazy. He doesn't know what's good for him. When the 7 or 8 people from before looked at Oyu Yangrong again, their eyes were filled with venom. Oyu Yangrong had demanded an exorbitant price, yet he told them that Chu Yang didn't have any points and was causing trouble in the achievement hall. If they had been crippled or even killed, they would have died in vain. You guys, drag him out and bury him alive. They were shocked again. Sure enough, they couldn't afford to provoke this person. Because of the shock, their movements were a little slow. Chu Yang frowned and looked at them coldly. Didn't you hear what I said? Yes, we'll go now. Oyu Yangrong panicked. I'll talk. Chu Yang looked at him coldly and said with a sneer, it's too late. I don't want to hear it now. It's An Rushang. An Rushang asked me to make things difficult for you. He said that whether it's the Achievement Hall, the Mission Pavilion, or the Martial Scripture Pavilion, you won't be able to bear the consequences. An Russian, that and something who? Chu Yang narrowed his eyes dangerously. When Oyu Yangrong heard Chu Yang's question, it was as if he had grasped at a life-saving straw. So, he anxiously said, An Russian is only An De who's lackey. Senior brother Chu, you're a great man. Please forgive this lowly one's transgression. Mph, is that so? Chu Yang was furious. I'd like to see how they're going to make things difficult for me in the Achievement Hall and the Martial Scripture Pavilion. Whoosh. His figure disappeared in an instant. He seemed to be heading in the direction of the Martial Scripture Pavilion. Immediately, the crowd burst into an uproar. Something big is going to happen. It seems like Chu Yang is going to sweep through the Martial Scripture Pavilion, the Achievement Hall, and the other places. I don't think it's going to be big. I'm afraid someone is just going to be unlucky. Chapter 340. Achievement Hall, Martial Scripture Pavilion, Dan Cauldron Pavilion. Chu Yang scanned through the place. Just as Oyu Yangrong had said, there were people who tried to make things difficult for him, but they were all swept away by him. Thunder swept their acupoints, and in an instant, he finished them all. Then, he went to the last place, the Mission Pavilion. The Mission Pavilion was crowded with people. This was the most popular place in the Divine Command Peak. Many outer sect disciples and inner sect disciples were here to accept missions. Chu Yang's arrival made the mission pavilion even livelier. There were many disciples following behind him, but when Chu Yang stepped into the mission pavilion, no one tried to make things difficult for him. They must have heard the news. Chu Yang didn't mind. He had already achieved his goal, so he didn't care about it anymore. He thought to himself, since I'm here at the mission pavilion, I'll take a look and see if there are any missions that are suitable for me. The mission pavilion was divided into two areas for outer disciples and inner disciples. They were separated from each other and didn't interfere with each other. Each area had a formation that formed a light screen. It allowed more than 30 disciples to check and accept missions at the same time. Obtained 3 earth pythons of the 1st to 6th level of the Chi Soul realm. Reward, 15 merit points. Harvested 500 grams of purple leaf grass. Reward, 3 merit points. Harvested 500 grams of cold ocean iron. Reward, 10 merit points. Mission description: ocean cold iron is usually found at a depth of 500 meters or less, if the family has a large ocean-going fleet. You might as well accept this mission. In addition, this mission can be repeated. He looked through the missions one by one. Some of the missions had descriptions, while some didn't. But without exception, there was a detailed description of the mission's difficulty. It allowed the disciples to clearly judge their strength and whether they could accept these missions. The 5 Elements sect is quite practical. They basically don't have any concept of fairness. If one has a strong background, he can use his family's strength or his own background to earn merit points in the 5 Elements sect. Chu Yang looked at the descriptions of these missions, and instantly realized this point. The 5 Elements sect was encouraging the new disciples in a disguised form to use their own forces boldly. However, when Chu Yang thought about it, he understood. In the eyes of the 5 Elements sect, one's strength did not only include one's personal strength. One's background was also a part of one's strength. Missions like the Cold Ocean Iron would be very difficult for ordinary disciples to complete. Only a few powerful factions could have such sturdy fishing boats. For an ordinary disciple with such a background, this was simply impossible. Of course, those who did not have a strong background and did not have enough power could also earn merit points and become outstanding. From this aspect, the 5 Elements sect was also fair. Everyone had a chance, but the price they had to pay was different. None of these missions seemed to suit me. Chu Yang frowned. Not only were the rewards few, but they were also very troublesome and required a lot of time. What he needed most now was to cultivate the innate wood constitution and break through to the 3rd revolution of the Chi Soul realm and the 4th revolution of the fleshly body realm. My 100,000 points can be exchanged for 100 merit points. What can I exchange for with 100 merit points? If he had enough points, he could also exchange them for wood-type treasures in the Hall of Merit and cultivate the innate wood constitution. Chu Yang continued to read, and many missions were filtered out by him. In the end, Chu Yang's gaze stopped on the screen of the last mission. Kill a dual-winged demonic tiger and obtain its beast core. Mission rewards: Art of Flora and 30 merit points. Mission description: dual-winged demonic tiger must be at least the 6th layer of the Chi Soul realm. This was a medium difficulty mission and the reward was the Art of Flora. When Chu Yang saw this, he could not help but frown. With a wood-type cultivation method, he would be able to cultivate the innate wood constitution much faster. How about this Art of Flora? Just from the name alone, it doesn't seem like much. My head hurts. Am I really going to be stuck at the 3rd revolution of the fleshly body realm and not be able to enter the 4th revolution? Chu Yang stood in front of the screen and fell into deep thought. Chapter 341. Leng Wenshu was a disciple of the Mission Pavilion, which was different from the other palaces. In the Mission Pavilion, other than maintaining order, he was responsible for issuing or explaining missions. Fortunately, I received the news in advance. Otherwise, I would have been killed by him. Leng Wenshu observed Chu Yang for a long time. A strange light flashed in his eyes as he thought to himself, I think I know what kind of mission he wants to take. He immediately left and pushed open a door not far away. He walked into the mission pavilion and closed the door. Senior brother An, the Chuyang you mentioned is here. I didn't dare to act rashly when I received your news. At this moment, a white figure with an extraordinary aura was sitting upright in the room. It was none other than An Russian. An Russian's eyes flashed. He sat up straight abruptly with a focused look on his face. Did he accept any missions? Senior brother An, he hasn't taken any missions yet. Lung Wenshu said, from what I can see, he's very interested in wood elemental cultivation methods or treasures. It's very likely that he wants to cultivate wood elemental vital energy but is stuck. He told An Russian about his speculation. Wood elemental cultivation methods and wood elemental treasures? An Russian frowned thoughtfully. Soon, he made a decision. It seems that he's feeling the pressure and wants to break through the shackles as soon as possible. Since he wants to take on wood elemental missions, we'll give them to him. Isn't there a thunderstruck wood mission? What? Lung Wenshu was shocked. Senior brother An, the reward for this mission is very generous. There are too many monks and too little gruel. We don't even have enough people on our side. How can we give it to him? What do you know? Just do as I say. As long as you complete the mission, the higher-ups will reward you. Do you think you won't get anything in return for working for senior brother and Daehyu? An Russian said coldly. That's true. Lung Wenshu said embarrassedly. Although he did not dare to say anything, it was obvious that he was reluctant to part with An Russian. If this bastard stays in the Five Elements sect, I can't do anything to him. However, as long as he leaves the Five Elements sect, things will be different. When that time comes, it'll be as easy as crushing an ant to kill him. An Rushang sneered and immediately ordered, go. Send out the task for the thunderstruck wood. Also, use your authority to ensure that this lowly bastard can accept this mission. Yes, don't worry, senior martial brother. I'll see to it that it's done right. I guarantee that this bastard won't even know how he died. Lung Wenshu smiled sinisterly and immediately did as he was told. Whoosh. Not long after, in the mission pavilion, Disciple Dream suddenly let out a cry of surprise. Everyone, look at the new mission. Thunderstruck wood. The reward is so high. A whole 1,000 merit points. Oh my god. Not only that, they even rewarded me with the heavenly wood divine arts. The uproar of the crowd reached Chu Yang's ears, and his spirit couldn't help but shake. Thunderstruck wood, heavenly wood divine arts, this is just right for me. He immediately leaned over and said, you have obtained a piece of thunderstruck wood. Reward, 1,000 merit points and a copy of the heavenly wood divine technique. Mission description, the thunderstruck wood needs to be obtained from the space of thunder and lightning through the gate of time and space. Mission evaluation, the space of thunder is an open space that all sects can enter. Even the disciples of the devil sect can enter. It is extremely dangerous. Suggestion, ordinary inner disciples are not recommended to accept this mission. Addition, if you have enough wisdom and means to compete with the sects and even the disciples of the devil sect, you can accept this mission regardless of whether you are a core disciple or not. Mission assistance, the disciple who accepts the mission will be directly sent to the space of thunder. Directly sent to the space of thunder. This was the mission. Chapter 342. Chu Yang had successfully accepted the task of the thunderstruck wood. This had made him more and more suspicious. You want to kill me? I'd like to see who's going to kill who. At this moment, Lung Wenshu had already arrived beside Chu Yang. Junior brother, congratulations on accepting the thunderstruck wood mission. After a pause, Lung Wenshu continued, I wonder when this junior brother will set off for the lightning-struck wood mission? I can arrange for a transportation gate to send junior brother into the lightning space. There's no time like the present. Let's finish the quest today. Chu Yang thought for a while and said, I'll have to trouble senior brother to send me to the thunder space. Let's do it today. Lung Wenshu snorted in his heart. Looks like you're in a hurry to reincarnate. I'll satisfy you. However, he smiled and said, Junior brother, You don't have to be so polite. This is my duty. As he spoke, he led the way and headed straight for the portal. With the portal, it was not only convenient but also much faster. All the Five Elements sect, regardless of whether it was the Divine Command Peak or other places, had portals that led to different places. However, ordinary disciples could not enjoy them. At the very least, only core disciples could enjoy such privileges. The Divine Command Peak's mission pavilion had portals that were specially used to send disciples to carry out missions. The portals were two-way. Not only could the Five Elements sect's disciples enter a dimensional world similar to the Thunder space. Similarly, they could also return to the Five Elements sect from the Thunder space. Soon, under Lung Wanshu's lead, the two of them arrived at a greenish-black hall that stood on top of a mountain. There were two disciples with vigorous auras guarding the hall. The hall seemed to be an abyss that was unfathomable. Chu Yang's consciousness could not enter at all. It was completely isolated. There were many stone arches on both sides of the hall. Those were the places where the portals were designated. Junior brother, it's here. Lung Wenshu cupped his fists towards Chu Yang. Junior brother, I wish you a victorious return soon. Thank you for your auspicious words, senior brother. Lung Wenshu explained the purpose of his visit to the two disciples in the main hall. Immediately, the portal to the space of thunder opened. Chu Yang was standing in the middle of the teleportation array. Suddenly, countless bolts of lightning appeared at the foot of the teleportation array. They crackled as if the thunder space was coming from the other side of the teleportation array. At the same time, Chu Yang's transmission array, the arch of the transmission array, also emitted strong space-time fluctuations. Soon, the space there started to distort. At this time, the arched door was completely transparent and lit up. Lightning bolts as thick as water snakes flashed on it. Above the arched door, a virtual space had appeared. Chu Yang raised his head to take a look. That space seemed to be filled with thunder, and there seemed to be no sun or moon in it. Instead, it was filled with dazzling thunder that illuminated the world. Is that the space of thunder? Boom! The portal suddenly shook, and a huge amount of energy burst out. The light became even more dazzling. Chu Yang only felt that the scenery around him was changing rapidly, and the space seemed to be distorting. Soon after, he felt that he was being transported at a very fast speed, and was rapidly approaching a strange dimensional world. This bastard has already set off. Chapter 343. The three white-robed disciples were of different heights. The three of them stood side by side like three trees, from the lowest to the highest. Their expressions were cold and intimidating, and their cultivation levels were similarly strong and terrifying. The three of them were at the 9th level of the Qi Soul Realm, and were even about to step into the Ascending Soul Realm. Duan Zhengji, Zhu Yanghua, Yi Kangjian. I'll do it myself. Entering the space of thunder is too obvious. This time, I'll let the three of you go in. No matter what, you must find a way to kill that Chu Yang, no matter the cost, understand? Brethren, don't worry. He's just a new disciple. No matter how talented he is, what can he do? Geniuses always die young. Humph, the three of us at the 9th level of the Qi Soul Realm are enough to deal with a new disciple. We already think highly of him. Don't be careless. And Russian said, in the last entrance examination, I sent 8 people into the illusory demon secret land, thinking that they could kill him in the illusory demon secret land. But for some reason, not only did this bastard escape, those 8 people died in the illusory demon secret land. I suspect that those 8 people were killed by this bastard. Brethren, don't worry. The three of them said in unison, we'll definitely kill that bastard in the space of thunder. That'd better be the case. And Russian said, if we fail again, I won't be able to explain it to Brother and Deity. The three of them became even more serious. All right, you should go now. You should be able to track down that bastard. Whoosh. The three of them stepped into the teleportation array. With a flash of light, the three of them disappeared. After the three of them disappeared, and Russian, in his snow-white robe, sent out a thought. Junior brother Ding, come out. Whoosh. In the blink of an eye, a figure appeared in front of an Russian. Then, he was teleported into the space of thunder. And Russian had suffered a loss last time. This time, he was prepared. Whoosh! The stars moved. It was impossible to perceive time and space. With a flash of light, Chu Yang felt that he had landed on solid ground. Rumble. As soon as Chu Yang landed on the ground, he felt a dazzling light piercing into his eyes. Soon after, a series of thunderous roars resounded without pause. Hiss. When he saw the scene in front of him, Chu Yang took a deep breath. There was no need to deliberately look at it. The sky was a vast expanse of white lightning. Silver snakes danced in the sky, imprinted directly into one's eyes. Above the centermost sky, there seemed to be a mountain of dark clouds. It was unknown how high or how big it was. Countless bolts of lightning bloomed from there, illuminating the entire space as if it were daytime. However, there was no sound of thunder coming from there. The sound of thunder that Chu Yang heard was coming from somewhere else. That mountain-like thunder cloud seems to be the sun here. What a magical space. Chu Yang even felt that the ground beneath his feet seemed to be formed by the power of lightning. Whoosh! A pair of eagle wings spread out behind him, and he immediately flew deeper into the forest. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace. Bang! 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 3 loud sounds were heard. At the place where Chu Yang had just disappeared, Duan Zhangji, Zhu Yanghua, and Yi Kangjian landed at the same time and lined up in a row. That bastard is gone. What a fast speed. Don't talk nonsense. He has offended Deity. No matter how fast he is, he must die. Otherwise, the 3 of us will die. That's right. Deity is not easy to talk to. If that bastard returns to the 5 Elements sect alive, I'm afraid we will be in trouble. Chapter 344. Chu Yang was flying in mid-air at an extremely fast speed as the strong winds were blowing in the sky. He flew past deserts, volcanoes, and lava pools. There wasn't much vegetation in sight, but all the vegetation was extremely tough. The environment in the space of thunder was extremely harsh. Heaven-blessed Martial Boss, I think I've arrived. Little Six suddenly said in his consciousness. Chu Yang looked in the direction that Little Six was pointing. He saw a huge fiery red mountain range in front of him. Raging flames were raging in front of him. Everything burning on the mountain was wrapped in red flames. From afar, one could feel a wave of heat sweeping over like a tidal wave, surging and surging, engulfing the surroundings. In this great heat, there was also a murderous and cold aura. Is this the earthly fire mountain range? Chu Yang's eyes flickered. When he entered the space of thunder to carry out a mission, the sect gave him sufficient information and even a detailed map. This place was marked on the ground. It was the blazing mountain range, the place where the earthly fire evil dragon was more active. The earthly fire evil dragon and the heavenly lightning head were said to be born in the space of thunder and had nothing to do with the demonic beasts in the outside world. Chu Yang's target was the earthly fire evil dragon. The thunderstruck wood was located at the thunder spring in the space of thunder and thunder. Although he hadn't arrived yet, he could imagine the danger there. He planned to feel the strength of the demonic beasts in the space of thunder and increase his strength at the same time. He had the eagle eye talent, and his vision was extremely sharp, allowing him to see extremely far. As he swept his gaze across the area, he immediately saw huge underground fire evil dragons. They were surrounded by black flames and were scattered all over the mountain range, roaming around. A few of the earthly fire evil dragons seemed to have smelled Chu Yang's aura from afar and let out a deafening roar towards the sky. In the air, Chu Yang felt a strong wave of qi even though he was very far away. It was as if he was hit by a whip, and his face couldn't help but change. According to the information, the earthly fire evil dragon is extremely murderous and ferocious. Moreover, it's powerful. It's true. Chu Yang directly descended and began to arrange the array formation. Heaven-blessed Martial Boss, are you really planning to provoke this savage hellfire evil dragon? Little Six exclaimed in his consciousness. He was shocked. Although these hellfire evil dragons are not related to dragons, they must be very strong since they are named after dragons. Furthermore, there are so many of them. Poking them would be like poking a hornet's nest. Especially among these Hellfire evil dragons, there was definitely no lack of ascending soul tier demonic beasts. Otherwise, Chu Yang wouldn't have set up a formation. He also wanted to know the general might of the Saber Gleam Sword Shadow Formation and the Fatal Spectre Formation, and which layer of ascending soul tier demonic beasts they could resist. He had a sense of crisis. Soon, someone would come looking for trouble with him. Now that his strength was limited, he could only rely on the array formation. Little 6, the Thunderstruck Wood mission stated that every Hellfire evil dragon killed at the 6th layer of the Chi Soul tier will be rewarded with 30 merit points. The reward for the entire Thunderstruck Wood mission is only 1,000 merit points. In other words, we have to kill around 300 Hellfire evil dragons, which is equivalent to a complete mission reward. Where else can we find such a good thing? Chu Yang said with a sharp glint in his eyes. He naturally didn't tell Little 6 about his worries, but what he said was the truth. The reward for merit points in the sect was very low. A Hellfire evil dragon at the 6th layer of the Chi Soul tier would be worth 30 merit points. This reward was already very generous. At the very least, it was better than other missions. In addition, if one killed a Hellfire evil dragon at the 6th layer of the Chi Soul tier and above, the reward would be even higher. Even if he couldn't complete the Thunderstruck Wood mission, he wouldn't lose anything by doing this. If he missed such a good opportunity, he wouldn't be Chu Yang. But, there are hundreds of them up there, and many of them are in the Ascending Soul tier. Boss, those aren't things we can deal with. Little 6 said with fear as he sensed the ferocious aura that soared into the sky from the mountain range. Don't worry. As the saying goes, a mountain can't have two tigers. Although these Hellfire evil dragons are social animals, they definitely have their own territories. As long as we lure them out one by one, it shouldn't be a problem. Chu Yang said with a wave of his hand. Chapter 345. Chu Yang laughed. What do you think? Little 6 and Little Black were instantly depressed. They were already dead monkeys, yet they still had to do manual labor. At this moment, they really wanted to erase all the true Yuan in this world. Soon, Little 6 used Chu Yang's true Yuan to form a body. His soul entered it and attracted a level 7 Chi Soul Realm Hellfire evil dragon. Boom! When the Hellfire evil dragon ran, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Its momentum was unparalleled. Especially when it was covered in raging flames. With one look, one could tell that the temperature was extremely high. Furthermore, there was fire poison. An ordinary person's body would not be able to withstand it. Heaven-blessed Martial Boss, hurry up. I'm waiting to see you show off your might. Well done. With the strength of a level 7 Chi Soul Realm, it's most suitable to test out your battle strength. Roar. Before Chu Yang could rush up, the Hellfire evil dragon opened its mouth and a sea of raging flames gushed out. Bang! The most shocking thing was that Chu Yang also had a raging flame at his original position. If it wasn't for his sharp divine sense, he would have been hit. It even knows how to play tricks. The flames in its mouth are a feint, but the flames coming out from the ground are the real killer move. Chu Yang was shocked. Especially the Hellfire evil dragon's ability to control flames. It could actually spit out flames from the ground silently. Good timing. Chu Yang's mind stirred, and a majestic real elemental energy broke out of his body. It instantly turned into a big bell, and protected his body. Bang! The raging flames burned Chu Yang's true Yuan until it sizzled. However, that was all. Chu Yang's true Yuan contained the heavenly fire true Yuan, so it was easy for him to block it. At this moment, Chu Yang was surrounded by raging flames. Black smoke billowed out, making him look like a fiery demon from hell. He was not calm and did not panic at all. In fact, because of the heavenly fire, he could not feel any heat at all. Roar. With a loud roar, the flames parted, and a ground fire evil dragon the size of a small mountain charged out like a bolt of lightning with a ferocious aura. The ground fire evil dragon had boundless strength. With this attack, even a small mountain could be smashed into pieces. Arrogant bastard! Chu Yang moved, creating a shockwave as he ruthlessly punched the Hellfire Evil Dragon. Rumble. Flames splattered everywhere. Chu Yang's attack was powerful enough to topple mountains and topple jade pillars. With a loud bang, the 7th layer Chi Soul Realm Underground Fire Evil Dragon let out a sorrowful roar and was sent flying backward. It fell heavily onto the ground and was half dead. Roar. The Hellfire Evil Dragon flipped over and got up. Although its body was covered in blood, its injuries were not serious. Its fiery eyes stared at Chu Yang as if it was looking at an enemy. Chu Yang didn't care and rushed forward. Great Thousand Leaf Palms. Wind Killer Sword. 18 Flood Dragon Strikes. Chu Yang wanted to test his battle strength, so he used the martial technique he used most often. Regardless of the Hellfire Evil Dragon's strength, Chu Yang didn't use all of his strength. For a moment, he had no choice but to fight with the Hellfire Evil Dragon. This battle was like a fierce battle between a dragon and a tiger. It was very intense. In the end, Chu Yang exploded with all of his strength. The Hellfire Evil Dragon's brain was smashed and its limbs were powerless. It unwillingly fell to the ground. Heaven-blessed martial boss, this Hellfire Evil Dragon probably died unwillingly. You win. Although this battle took a long time, it was worth it. Chu Yang already knew that he could deal with a 7th layer Chi Soul Realm even without using the 3rd transformation of the Origin Martial Realm and the 3rd transformation of the Chi Soul Realm. Go and lure a 1st layer Ascending Soul Realm Underground Fire Evil Dragon over. Little Six was instantly shocked. 1st layer Ascending Soul Realm? Yes, I've only fought with Ascending Soul Realm opponents before. In the future, when I encounter Ascending Soul Realm enemies, I'll be able to grasp the pace of the battle. I won't blindly underestimate the enemy, nor blindly underestimate myself. Chu Yang said indifferently. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll be victorious in every battle. This sentence was not only suitable for military battles, but it was also suitable for the world of martial arts. Those who were blindly impulsive and misjudged the situation basically died halfway. Boss is boss. You're amazing, and you do whatever you say. Little Six and Little Black left unwillingly. Soon, the earth shook and the mountains shook. It's here. Chapter 346. Wang. Before the Ground Fire Evil Dragon arrived, ripples could be seen in the air as it fiercely rushed over. This Ground Fire Evil Dragon was much smaller than the previous one. It seemed to be a fire pagoda. As it got closer, the pressure from its body also became stronger. In an instant, Chu Yang's sleeves and hair fluttered. He felt as if a mountain was pressing down on him. Is this the soul pressure of an Ascending Soul Realm expert? This was the first time Chu Yang felt the soul pressure of an Ascending Soul Realm expert. In an instant, the Zhen Yuan in his body was in a state of panic, as if it was the end of the world. It was completely chaotic, and a large amount of Zhen Yuan escaped from his body. His Zhen Yuan was completely in a state of chaos, and it was almost completely out of control. It was as if a wolf had barged into a flock of sheep, and his Zhen Yuan was like a flock of sheep, fleeing in fear. As expected, a Chi Soul Realm expert is no match for an Ascending Soul Realm expert. Once the soul pressure comes down, the Zhen Yuan will be out of control, and the body will be in a state of chaos. Not to mention using Zhen Yuan to form Zhen Yuan skills, it will be difficult to even use Zhen Yuan to protect the body. In Chu Yang's spiritual world, he also felt a great pressure at this moment. It was as if a commoner had met an emperor. He couldn't help but feel fear in his heart, and he wanted to kneel down. After the martial spirit is upgraded, it is indeed amazing. Wang. Chu Yang tried his best to resist this soul pressure. He visualized the great millstone of the celestial turbidity, and turned the huge soul pressure into a pushing force. He shifted the soul pressure, and the great millstone of the celestial turbidity started to rotate crazily in his consciousness. It seemed to have turned into a heavenly saber that could cut through everything. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of swords clashing rang out, and the flood dragon roared. The saber sword martial spirit and the flood dragon martial spirit seemed to be enraged by the intrusion of a group of bandits. However, in front of this strong spirit suppression, they were unable to resist at all. It was already extraordinary that they did not tremble. Genius martial spirit, idiot martial spirit. Chu Yang finally used his destiny twin martial spirits. In an instant, the storm in his spiritual world stopped. The Zhen Yuan in his body also completely stabilized, and all the pressure disappeared. Sure enough, my genius martial spirit and idiot martial spirit are very special. They can even withstand soul pressure. Chu Yang had a very deep understanding of everything. His genius martial spirit and fool martial spirit were like a cultivator who had jumped out of the secular world. They didn't care about the power of the secular world, nor did they fear it. However, there was a limit to it. This was good. For example, if this person who had jumped out of the secular world and sought immortality was still bound by the secular world and did not have enough strength to completely jump out, the power of the secular world could still oppress him. 9th grade Sesame official. 8th grade and 7th grade shouldn't be a problem. Chu Yang felt that he should be able to withstand the soul pressure of the first 3 tiers of the ascending soul tier. However, he reckoned that he wouldn't be able to withstand the soul pressure of the 4th or 5th tiers. The genius martial soul and the idiot martial soul might be directly obliterated, or there might also be a huge change. It was just like when a cultivator suddenly touched a taboo and destroyed the entire imperial city. However, he didn't know the specific details. Human, you're truly surprising. You're only at the 3rd level of the Chi soul realm, yet you're able to withstand my soul pressure. That's truly unbelievable. The ground fire evil dragon spoke human language. This wasn't rare. Demonic beasts in the Chi soul tier already had intelligence, let alone those in the ascending soul tier. Boom. Immediately, the earth seemed to fiercely collapse. Chu Yang suddenly felt that the gravity of the earth had increased by at least 4 to 5 times. If it was an ordinary person, regardless of whether it was their physical body or true yuan, they would probably have been greatly pressured. However, Chu Yang was different. Not only was his physical body strong, but his true yuan was also extremely strong. The gravity of the earth. At the same time, he was greatly inspired. When he was still in the Coiling Dragon Town, he had been in the distorted passageway of the Coiling Dragon Mystery Realm. Through observing the distorted passageway, he had comprehended the profound meaning of light and heavy. The world was very big. He wanted to go and take a look. What was there to look at? Of course, it was to look at the local conditions and customs of the world. The lives of the people of every place contained their own philosophies, which would allow one to gain insights. The Coiling Dragon Mystery Realm, the Huanmo Mystery Realm, and now the Space of Thunder. The most precious thing might not be the treasures or other things, but the Tao of heaven and earth that they contained, and the profound meaning of heaven and earth that they revealed. Chapter 347. Boom. Chu Yang charged out of the gravitational zone like a flying boat on the sea. He broke through the airwaves and went straight for the ground fire evil dragon. When the ground fire evil dragon was surprised that Chu Yang had broken out of its gravitational zone, Chu Yang had already arrived. The dragon roared and the elephant roared. Behind him, the power of 11 dragons and 7 elephants appeared. Chu Yang directly used the 3rd transformation of the origin martial art. The power of 3 dragons and 9 elephants was the power of 11 dragons and 7 elephant. Bang! The ground fire evil dragon's tower-like body was directly sent flying. The place where it landed was like a landslide. There was a rumbling sound and smoke rose into the sky. The scene was very shocking. This was Chu Yang's peak battle strength. The first layer of the Chi Soul realm only had the power of 1 elephant. 9 layers had the power of 9 elephants. A body cultivator's power of 1 dragon could fight against a first layer Chi Soul realm warrior. The power of 9 dragons could fight against a 9th layer Chi Soul realm warrior. In other words, Chu Yang unleashed the 3rd transformation of the origin martial art. Combined with his true yuan, he could easily kill a 9th layer Chi Soul realm warrior. Even an extremely strong 9th layer Chi Soul realm warrior was no exception. He could even kill a 1st layer ascending soul realm warrior. A body cultivator with the power of 10 dragons could fight against an ascending soul realm warrior. Chu Yang now had the power of 11 dragons and 7 elephants. However, the third transformation of the origin martial art was his greatest secret. How could he easily reveal it just to vent his anger? This kind of trump card would only be used in a life and death battle. It was used to kill, not to show off. This was also the reason why he was so arrogant in the Five Elements sect. If he didn't use the third transformation of the origin martial art, he would kill a 6th layer spirit realm warrior like killing a chicken. How could he not dare to be arrogant? The power of 11 dragons and 7 elephants. Human, you are indeed not simple. However, you have angered me. Roar. The ground fire evil dragon let out an earth-shattering roar. The air surged like waves, and the true essence condensed into 10 huge boulders in midair. Each boulder seemed to be the size of a small mountain or a star. They smashed down towards Chu Yang. Rumble. It seemed like the mountain was collapsing. It also seemed like the boulders were too heavy. The air was being crushed until it exploded. Under each boulder, a visible arc was formed. Chu Yang squinted his eyes. He realized that the ground fire evil dragon had an additional weight on the boulders. Each boulder was at least 5 to 6 times heavier. However, instead of being shocked, he was delighted. Good. Chu Yang soared into the sky and took the initiative to meet the 10 boulders. His fists continued to bombard them. Bang bang bang. In the blink of an eye, the 10 boulders were smashed into pieces, like 10 fireworks blooming in the air. The true essence that had condensed the boulders exploded and swept across the sky, as if the void was about to explode. The Hellfire Evil Dragon was dumbfounded. It immediately wanted to escape. Do you think you can leave? Eat my fist too. Third Revolution of Shawu. Chi Soul Third Revolution. Chu Yang caught up with the Hellfire Evil Dragon in an instant like a bolt of lightning. He blocked the Hellfire Evil Dragon's path and punched it. The Hellfire Evil Dragon tried its best to resist, but it was still smashed into pieces by Chu Yang's punch. This monster. He's even more of a monster than a monster. Little Six and Little Black, whose divine souls had fallen into the bodies formed by True Origin, were dumbfounded. They had estimated Chu Yang's peak battle prowess, and knew that Chu Yang could fight against an ascending soul tier. However, they were still shocked. Moreover, Chu Yang's peak battle prowess was much more terrifying than they had imagined. True Essence exploded 3 times, breaking through the Terraflame Evil Dragon's true essence. Combined with the third revolution of Shawu, the huge power blew the Terraflame Evil Dragon apart. Chu Yang was not too surprised by this. This was not far from what he had predicted. After this battle, he realized that he could also kill a 2nd layer Divine Soul tier. It was hard to say if it was a 3rd layer Divine Soul tier. However, the disadvantage was that using the 3rd revolution of Shawu and Chi Soul 3rd revolution at the same time consumed an astonishing amount of energy. I need to get used to this kind of consumption. Chu Yang's thoughts turned and he said, Little Six, Little Black, we can attract 2 3rd layer ascending soul tier Terraflame Evil Dragons. We can also attract 2nd layer ones. This monster, you're not afraid of death, but we are. Chapter 348. Soon, Little Six and Little Black attracted 2 2nd layer ascending soul realm ground fire evil dragons. This time, Chu Yang's battle wasn't as easy as before. However, the last 2 ground fire evil dragons still died under Chu Yang's hands. Then, there were 3, 4, 5 ground fire evil dragons, followed by 2nd layer ascending soul realm and even 3rd layer ascending soul realm ones. When the ground fire evil dragons reached the 3rd layer ascending soul realm, Little Six and Little Black's eyes were already full of stars. They screamed and screamed in disbelief. Chu Yang was fighting 1 against 2, yet he was actually able to fight 2 hellfire evil dragons at the 3rd level of the ascending soul realm. It was as if he was an invincible overlord. In the end, Chu Yang naturally wasn't a match for them. He cooperated with 2 formations set up in advance and killed the 2 3rd layer ascending soul realm ground fire evil dragons. Whether it was the sword light formation or the ghost death formation, Chu Yang was very clear about their upper limits. The 3rd layer ascending soul realm was no problem, but the fourth layer ascending soul realm was a bit difficult. With the help of the ground fire evil dragons, Chu Yang not only understood his peak battle strength, but also confirmed and polished the formations. When used in battle, it wouldn't be too awkward. The harvest was also very big. In any case, the mission stated that killing a Hellfire Evil Dragon at the 6th level of the Chi Soul Realm would reward him with 30 merit points. Now that Chu Yang had even killed an Ascending Soul Realm martial artist, the reward he would receive would be even greater. Merit points? I definitely don't think it's too much. Chu Yang was tempted. He could totally use the ground fire evil dragons to earn merit points. After adjusting his breath, Chu Yang even charged into the group of earthly fire evil dragons and fought a great battle. The third transformation of the primitive martial technique, the third transformation of the Chi Soul, the formation, the sword technique, the saber technique, the flying dagger technique, the conception, and his ultimate move, the fragrant elephant crossing the river, the cutting off all flow, as well as his road to heaven, which was also his so-called somersault cloud. There were a few times when he encountered a 5th tier or even 6th tier ascending soul tier hellfire evil dragon. He had almost died on the spot, and only with the help of the array to buy time and the somersault cloud did he manage to escape death. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Chu Yang had obtained an extremely great amount of tempering, and definitely did not take the ascending soul tier 3rd layer seriously. It was a pity that he had not broken through in the end. The innate wood body is really holding me back. While Chu Yang was frowning, he suddenly heard Little Black say, "Heaven-chosen divine martial boss, someone is coming towards us." The two apes, Little Six and Little Black, were both looking to the north. They could clearly feel 3 strong auras approaching them at high speed. Oh! Chu Yang blinked but didn't care too much. This was the thunder space. If he were to erupt with his peak strength, no one would know. Judging from the clothes of these 3 people, there is a 5-colored cloud embroidered on them. They should be disciples of the 5 Elements sect. Looking at them, they should have sensed your presence and are probably here to cause trouble. Little Six and Little Black continued. "Ch, as expected." Chu Yang snorted coldly. He was not surprised at all. From the beginning, he felt that this mission was a little strange, as if it was specially prepared for him. "Boss, these 3 people are only in the 9th tier of the Chi Soul tier. Should we kill them?" Chu Yang thought for a while and said, "No hurry." They probably also accepted the Thunderstruck Wood mission. It won't be too late to kill them after they complete the mission. Kill them after they were fattened up. Little Six and Little Black suddenly felt that these 3 people were too pitiful. They were like pigs being reared. Ignore them for now, and don't let them know that you have found them. We will immediately change location. If they continue to chase us, then there is definitely something wrong with our deduction. At that time, there is no need to show mercy. Chu Yang thought again and immediately made up his mind. He was very cautious. Before he was 100% sure that these 3 people were here to kill him, he would not casually kill them. Peng. Chapter 349. Roar. When Chu Yang flew past the area where the ground fire evil dragon was, the ground fire evil dragon's ferocious flames surged. It was as if they had discovered an enemy intruding into their territory. One by one, the ground fire evil dragons roared wildly at Chu Yang in the sky. However, they didn't dare to make a move rashly. In these 3 days, Chu Yang had left a deep impression on these ground fire evil dragons. Although the ground fire evil dragons at the 5th and 6th level of the ascending soul realm were alarmed, they didn't dare to chase after him. They were afraid that Chu Yang would set up some trap for them again. They had a deep understanding of this human's craftiness and astonishment, and this human was honestly too frightening. Damn it! He got away again. Not long after the 2 of them left, Duan Zhengji, Zhu Yanghua, and Yi Kangjian immediately appeared at Chu Yang's original location. The 3 of them looked at the rapidly disappearing black dot in the sky. However, they didn't dare to chase after him because they would have to pass through the ground fire evil dragon's territory. As expected of a country bumpkin. He actually doesn't know how terrifying the ground fire evil dragon is. His luck is too good. The ground fire evil dragon actually didn't make a move on him. The three of them looked at the sky with hatred. They were also a little surprised by Chu Yang's astonishing good luck. They were all too clear about how terrifying the ground fire evil dragon was. This wasn't the first time the three of them came to this space of thunder. With the ground fire evil dragon in the middle, the three of us would cause a bigger commotion. If we flew over, we probably wouldn't have such good luck. Looks like this country bumpkin is going to get away again this time. The three of them looked at the direction where Chu Yang disappeared in and were extremely furious. The three of them had been looking for Chu Yang for 3 days. They never thought that Chu Yang would actually dare to come here and challenge the ground fire evil dragon. Since he got away, there's no hurry to chase after him for the time being. It won't be too late to kill him after we finish the thunderstruck wood. That's right, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We won't come to this thunder space for nothing. However, when the three of them were about to kill the Hellfire Evil Dragon, they were shocked to discover that the Hellfire Evil Dragon on the mountain range was even more berserk than usual. It was already bursting with ferocious aura. Before they could do anything, the Hellfire Evil Dragon was already at the 5th or 6th layer of the ascending soul realm, scaring them out of their wits. Fortunately, they were still some distance away from the Hellfire Evil Dragon. Otherwise, they would have died without a doubt. That damned country bumpkin, when I find him, I'll tear him to pieces. We've been tricked by him. If we don't take revenge, we're not human. This time, he must have done it in the Huanmo secret realm. His vigilance is astonishing. The three of them gritted their teeth and were extremely careful. Past the Earthfire mountain range was a volcanic plain. Volcanoes that had completely subsided could be seen everywhere on this plain. They were so tall that they pierced through the clouds. The demonic beasts here were much weaker than the Hellfire Evil Dragon. But further in was the rare ancient forest in the thunder space. The trees there towered into the sky. Huge trees that looked like pillars could be seen everywhere. The thunder spring shouldn't be far. The ancient forest was formed because of the existence of the thunder spring in the center. The thunder spring released a huge amount of vitality that nourished this area. Going to the thunder spring actually referred to this ancient forest. The edge of the thunder spring was the real thunder spring. If Chu Yang went to the thunder spring, he would be sending himself to death. His insignificant strength wasn't enough. Of course, the thunderstruck wood was also found in this ancient forest. The thunder space was filled with violent lightning all year round. Many of the trees in the ancient forest had been struck by lightning. It could be said that this was a great production area for thunderstruck wood. Naturally, the ancient forest was also an extremely dangerous place. Anyone who entered the thunder space would definitely come to this ancient forest. When Chu Yang was about to reach the ancient forest, suddenly, a scream came from afar. The competition here is really intense. Chu Yang's divine senses were very sharp. In an instant, he found the source of the scream. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.